Hello and good evening. Welcome to the beginning of the semifinals for the NRL's third season. My name is Toon. Pleasure to have your company this evening. And joining me in the booth, as always, are two of the finest commentators I've had the great pleasure of sharing a booth with. They are, of course, Leo and Slow-Mo. Starting with you, Leo. How are you feeling about the upcoming events for this evening?
Oh man, Toon, I'm feeling amazing by it. I've spent a lot of time with these guys in the practice lobbies. We did have a good little break, which hopefully paid out for these drivers, and it looks like it has. I'm just super excited to see what happens, and yeah, let's get racing.
Fantastic. How about you, Slow-Mo?
I'd probably say the same thing every week, but we got two really awesome car track combinations. We got two lobbies full of extremely talented drivers. Tonight is going to be some exciting racing. I cannot wait to see how this plays out and who's punching their ticket into the finals for next week.
Agreed. This is going to be an intense and amazing series of races. Now, since we only have two races this evening, we'll be starting with our Division B race. Let's take a look at the current classified standings for our divisions. Starting with our B standings across both days, we have currently sitting in P1 Wicco with an astonishing 81 points. And in P2, we have 54 Yiznoaz, also known as Shanzi, and a tie, actually, with PHG Papa, both at 68 points. In P4, we have Purple Norpal 88 at 63. Rounding out our top five so far is PHG Speedy Lee, followed by PHG Fenrir, PHG Dagger, Throwback Cat, Lewis, and a tie for P10, we have Skeletor 698 and Jay, both with 45 points. And then right below them is also another tie with Angry Fredbird and Turtleshell tied for P12 with 43 points. And then, oh wow, the ties keep on going. We have a tie for P14 between Redneck C137 and Bandit with 37 points. We have a two-way tie for P16 with Beef Castle and SVG Brigsby. Sitting in P18, we have M. Marino. Moving on down the grid, we have a tie for P19 right now with Jay Smith and Bells. And then in P21, we have Horn of Plenty, followed by Jack PHG SVG 15, followed by Smokes VR6V. And then we have in P24, Average Kurt Games. And then rounding out our rankings for Division B is DVM 0X.
A lot of PhD on that board.
Yeah, it's kind of concerning when you really think about it. Now moving on over to our Division A standings across both days, we have sitting in P1, GSR La Cabra 809 with 68 points. Very close behind him in P2 is a tie right now for between PHG Salamander MN and the True Serum, followed by our defending Season 2 champion GSR I'm Mullet in P4. Rounding out our top five standings, of course, is VTX Blindman GT, followed by a three-way tie for P6 between S7R Slipstream, Gran Turismo, GSR Shaggy Doo, all with 52 points. And then in P9, we have MMR Moose 21, who is sharing his own three-way tie with himself, Talent, and Deputy Fishtail with 51 points. Moving on down the order, we have MD Hop in P12, followed by a tie for P13 between Spawn and Jesser with 43 points apiece, followed by Corridor 71, GLK Sneaky. Moving on over to more ties, we've got Sugar Shuffles and Island Grown 777 with 35 points apiece. Going further down the order, we have a tie for P19 between Boogity Boogity and MK with 30 points apiece, followed by Aero US, VTX Ska, who is in a tie for P22 with Root at 26 points apiece. And we have Hitty, Raider, Fernando Button, Chief Apollo 11 in a tie with VTX Jake with 17 points. And we have Shadow Chef down in P29. Moving on down the grid further, we've got Sweet Lou Sanus in P30. And then rounding out our order for Division A across both days is Sparky. You know, when we put them all together like that, there's a lot of Division A drivers, way more than I expected. Now, with all that being... Oh, go ahead.
We're going to whittle all those down into one grid for the finals for next week. Don't forget. We'll talk about that here shortly.
Sure will. With all that being said, it's time we get into tonight's races, and we will again be starting with our Division B race, which takes us to Florida at the world-famous Daytona International Raceway. So, our drivers for Division B this evening will be here at Daytona Road Course for 18 laps in the Viper SRT GT3R 2015 with a 5-minute qualifier. They will be able to use all racing compounds as there are no requirements for this one. And they will also have to contend with a 12 times tire wear and 5 times fuel consumption rates. And of course, will be a rolling start. Moving our way over to the points totals for the evening. Slow-Mo, would you be so kind as to inform everyone of how the points work this evening?
Oh, happy to. Thanks, Toon. So our points for this week are going to be awarded to the drivers. It's always going to be based on their total race time. The fastest driver getting that 36-point total. And then the points have increased this week. So, they're basically double of what they were in week 1. In addition to those points, the drivers can earn additional bonus points by taking one of those podium spots and putting up a fastest lap in their race. This week is the last elimination week before our finals. Drivers are going to be fighting for one of those 14 spots in their respective field splits for a chance to get that NRL championship next week.
Thank you, Slow-Mo. Always happy to have you here. Now, making our way over to the driver lineup for this evening, we have PHG Papa, Purple Nurple 88, PHG Speedy Lee, Lewis, Jay, Skeletor 698, Redneck C137, Beef Castle, M. Marino, Jay Smith, Bells, Jack PHG SVG 15, Smokes VR6V, and YouTube Average Kurt Games. Listed under their names are going to be their team affiliations if they have one, or if they're a free agent. There will also be their YouTube and or Twitch information should it be applicable to that driver. So, Leo, you spent quite a bit of time checking in on the drivers, and you definitely had a bit of a preference for the Division B drivers as they're here in Daytona. What were some of the things that stuck out to you?
Toon, I did notice quite a bit. I've noticed a lot of people staying away from the hard tire. I was shocked by that. I thought people would be wanting to use that to go the distance, but I don't think that's going to end up happening. Some things I noticed about the car, if you are using the brakes a lot, it does tend to kind of stop working at some point if you're really hard on them. I don't know what the deal is with that, but I did notice that there was a couple of times I went into a corner and I had no brakes. So I guess the glazed brakes thing is still going on.
I didn't even know that was a thing. Slummo, were you able to take a look at any of the competition between our Division B drivers this week?
Without having gotten to see too much of the competition this week, I will tell you that we know that Papa is going to be a strong competitor. Daytona is probably one of, if not his favorite course, if I'm not mistaken. Leo, maybe you can attest to that. But I don't know that I know too many other people that have ran as many laps at Daytona as I expect that he has.
Yeah, Slow-Mo, I could definitely agree to that. Papa and all the PHG gang have run a considerable amount of laps. Now, granted, that is the tri-oval version, so I don't know if they've done too much of the road course, but I know they have this week.
Well, that is honestly really good to know. And before we get into the racing action for this evening, I would also like to throw out that we received a generous $5 donation from our very own Redneck C137 before the broadcast even started. So, Redneck, thank you so very much for your support. All of us here at the league greatly appreciate it, and we greatly appreciate the amount of hard work you put in every single week when it comes to practicing for these races, and we can't wait to see what tonight will have in store for you. Gentlemen, so it's honestly an interesting thing that we're at Daytona this week, because just a few weeks ago we had the 24 hours of Daytona, And then it wasn't the Daytona 500 just a few days ago because they got rained out, Leo?
Yes, that's correct. They actually had it done on Monday, which I've never heard of before, and I've kept up with NASCAR a little bit, but not as much nowadays. But I've never heard of them starting on a Monday, and that was crazy to hear about. But yes, they did just run the Daytona 500 to open, I believe, the season. I'm not 100% sure on that. Like I said, I haven't kept up with it in a while.
All right, well, that's really good to know. So, gentlemen, as this is the semifinals for season 3, and this being the opening night for the semifinals, do either of you expect to see people putting in even more effort than they have before? We'll start with you, Leo.
I believe the gloves are going to come off here. I mean, this is a track that we've all ran numerous amounts of times for the dailies and or nations as well, and or manufacturers, I believe, as well. So everybody's really accustomed to this track. Now, the only different part is that it's in the Dodge Viper. That is a beast of a car. I mean, you got a V10 underneath the hood, whole lot of horsepower. I believe 500 and some odd change, and a lot of torque, so that the rear end will come out from underneath this car very quickly. But I do believe that it's going to be a fight to the end.
Well, good to know. Slomo, do you expect to see the gloves coming off this evening too?
It's a good question, Tune. I think you're going to see some very calculated risks by some of our drivers today. I'd personally be shocked to see somebody go on hards, but some of these guys come with some really interesting strategies. So I think you're really going to see these guys throwing out the kitchen sink to try and keep their total lap times down as low as possible. I've got, and there's no tire requirements, so they really kind of have free reign here. I've got an enormous tire tracker here created in front of me, so I'm going to try and do my best to keep track of what compounds everybody's on and see if we can, make some sense out of what strategies they're putting in front of us today.
Perfectly fair, and I know you will be extremely hard at work on that, just like you are every single week. And now it is time we get our qualifying underway as we are on board with PHG Speedy Lee, who is a part of the illustrious and alarmingly ever-growing Papa's House of Game team. He is currently sitting in P5 for Division B, but that is definitely subject to change this evening with a grand total of 60 points. You can find him on YouTube at _BuddyLee as he comes around Speedway 1 and holding a nice low line. Now, Leo, you're quite fond of Daytona, as is most of the PHG, as much of the PHG army. And in just a second, I will ask you a question because I'm just now getting word from production that we've received a nice donation of $9.99 from our very own broadcaster, TK's. TK's, thank you so very much, and can't wait to be in the booth with you tomorrow as we see what the rest of the semifinals has in store for us.
Thanks, TK's.
Thank you, TK's.
I hope you have yourself a great night and enjoy the racing action. So, Leo, since a lot of the PHG guys love Daytona, you've obviously driven on it a lot. Is it better on the banks to take a high line than go low, or just stay low throughout?
That's a very good question, Toon. So in real life racing, around Daytona, especially the tri-oval, and possibly the road course version as well, the low line is the fastest line, but to conserve tires, you would always take the high line because there's less force being acted on the car, less tire wear. I am going to assume most of these guys are going to run the low line until they get that draft and they can slingshot around whoever they're trying to get around. I would suspect we will mainly see most of the overtakes done on the backstretch and maybe a little bit on the front stretch. The infield is very difficult to get around somebody here.
All right, that is really good to know. And since it's a one-make race, I would not be surprised if we saw some racing akin to MX5 Cup here at Daytona, where it's bumper-to-bumper action. Everybody's giving each other little bumps to propel them down the speedways even faster. And speaking of fast, Speedy Lee is flying through the Le Mans chicane right now, holding it nicely. I looked like a little close on the right, but I don't think it was enough to net him a half-second penalty. And nope, he's good to go, taking a nice low line coming around Speedway 3, I believe it is. And he's going to be setting our benchmark for the qualifying laps. Coming through Speedway 4 and onto the front stretch. Let's see what he will be setting as he comes across the line with a 1:46.548. That is the improved time, but Purple Nurple already taking almost a tenth off of that. Purple Nurple is currently sitting with a 1:46.487, and now we jump down to Lewis, who is currently a free agent, sitting in P9 overall for Division B with 45 points. You can find him on YouTube at Luis KD Lopez. Oh wow, the sun's already down. This is gonna be extremely interesting, and it looks like Lewis actually set a time 2 1,000ths off of Purple Nurple. Yeah, we're gonna be in for some close racing, folks, and it's gonna be a blast to see through and through. Let's see how Lewis does coming through the kink, heading towards Horseshoe West End. Let's see how he does, holding a nice line. I think Lewis might be on pace here to try and nab pole from Purple Nurple, unless Purple Nurple's on a heater of his own. Keeping a tight line. You could hear those tires just going to work right now. Traction control definitely helping keep that car stable, as there is a little bit of a bump coming out of the west end.
Yeah, Speedy Lee just came through the chicane and is coming around his last turn here. I'm curious to see if he can improve the 1:46.548 that he's got. And while I'm doing that, I also wanted to comment that there are some really good looking liveries out here in the field. So let us know in the chat what your favorite liveries are tonight.
Yes, please do. As we see Speedy Lee come across the line for, actually that was Purple Nurple's final lap for qualifying and set an astounding 1:46.085. Well played. So, unless something happens, it looks like our starting grid will be set, but only time will tell as we jump on over to PHG Papa, coming through Speedways 3 and 4 onto the front stretch. He's actually flying right now. It's up to 170 miles an hour, and
there it is.
PHG Papa steals pole at the last second with a 1:45.886. Yeah, you can tell this is definitely Papa's home track when it comes to GT7.
Dude, I don't know if you saw it, but Papa went into the pit after his after his first outlap, and I don't know if he ended up incurring a penalty or everybody was on the soft tire compound for qualifying, so I don't know why he went back to the pits, but maybe he'll end up with the podium. We can figure that out later.
Yeah, there's definitely time to speculate, and only time will tell if we'll see Papa here in the booth. I know those part of PHG will definitely want to see their fearless leader run the hat trick, which, I mean, I don't blame them. Papa's had an amazing bounce back this season, and it's definitely looking like he's having a grand old time doing it too. But Leo, you were cycling through the grid, and what were some of the common things you were seeing from the drivers as they were doing their laps? Did you see some of them taking certain driving lines? Did you wind up seeing them maybe taking a different angle for the banks?
Toon, I pretty much saw everybody sticking to the same line, if not trying to get as close to the person either in front of them or helping the person behind them with the draft. They were all taking pretty tight lines. I didn't see anything out of ordinary that I would do. Nothing like a Hako strat, you would say. Nothing crazy like that. But no, they were all pretty much uniform and in line.
All right. Well, looks like we will get to see all of that in action as we are about to get the first evening's Division B semifinals racing underway with Papa sitting in pole. This has got to be a great night for him. He's got to be having the time of his life because he's on home turf, and I'm pretty sure he's quite partial to the Dodgers himself. Take a look at Papa's details here. He is.
And away we go. Here
Actually,
we
and they're
go.
off. We'll have to get to the nitty gritty about Papa later as he is flying on down the front straight into turn one. Got a little gaggle of cars right behind him, but he's definitely able to pull away in fantastic fashion. Well done, Papa. Making his way down on into the International Horseshoe. Let's see if he can maintain spreading that gap. Taking a tight line and just easing his way out. Fantastic. You can tell practice has been put in by all of these drivers in these last 2 weeks. Got a nice train of cars running as we jump on down to Purple Nurple, who is currently about half a second behind Lewis and a quarter of a second in front of Speedy Lee, who is rapidly gaining. Seeing that sun come down in the lovely GT7 variant of Florida as they head on down to West Horseshoe. Now, this is a tricky little spot for the drivers because there's a little spot where you can definitely upset the car, but it seems like everybody's keeping it nice and steady at the moment.
Oh, it looks like Jay Smith has upset the car as you said it. He's down into P11 now.
Could we get a little bit of replay to see what happened there? Because I know that is a very easy corner to spin out on. Oh, he is. See here, coming through West End, getting a good amount of the curb. And just a little too eager on the throttle.
Yeah, as you're saying it, Tuna, it happened, unfortunately.
I guess I've got my own commentator's curse going on or something. Moving on over to Speedway 3 with Speedy sitting in P4, getting a lot of slipstream out of Purple Nurple. Do not blame him there. It's definitely going to be a commonality, I'm suspecting, for the drivers, as this is a one-make race on quite a fast circuit as well.
Yeah, Toon, you know, one thing that I didn't hear anybody mention, Jay Smith actually started on the hards. So maybe that's got something to do with the difficulties having with the traction. We've got quite a bit of the field on mediums, and then just a few people that started on softs. Skeletor, Papa, and Redneck are on softs. Then everybody else except Jay Smith is on mediums.
Do you think Jay Smith might be trying to take as little pit stops as possible to make up for the deficit?
You know, Toon, that's what I would be thinking. You know, when I first saw this come up, I was like, oh, maybe you can get away with, you know, just running the hards the entire race and just take fuel. But the few practice lobbies that I was in, the deficit of running them hard tires versus the soft and mediums was very evident. It didn't prove to be the right move for me, but maybe he can make it work. I'm not for sure.
All right. As we jump on board with Jay, who is, I believe, just falling out of slipstream range with Speedy Lee, and is currently about half a second ahead of PHG Skeletor coming up towards the Le Mans chicane. This is definitely a fun chicane to take, but it's also a little dicey at times depending on the car and tires you're on. Because one wrong move could also net you a half-second penalty, but it's not looking like anybody got one this go-around, which is definitely great to see. But that exit out of the chicane definitely sets you up for your runs through Speedway 3 and 4. So if any part of the track the drivers wanted to focus on, it had to be the chicane. As we see, Skeletor is trying to find a nice overtaking opportunity against Jay, but backing out to avoid any carnage going into turn 1. Flames coming out of that exhaust under braking, always nice to see. Skeletor is a free agent, of course, currently sitting in P10 with 45 points, and is having a fantastic race so far as they come into the International Horseshoe, keeping a nice single file front car. I'm getting word from production, Skeletor actually just got signed to PHG. Yeah, that just goes to show free. It just goes to show free agent just means it hasn't been signed to PHG yet. As he moves on over to the west end of the horseshoe and is still breathing down Jay's neck. See a good little gaggle of cars here, especially from a lot of our drivers. Now, what's caught my attention is I see Skeletor is actually running the softs too, so that might work to his advantage for at least a certain portion of the race. And look at that livery. That is really nice. Really, I don't think the track conditions could be more perfect to really showcase the elegance of that car. It's nice.
You know, Toon, speaking of his livery, you could see down at the bottom his mascot, I would say, on the bottom diffuser of the car. You could see a small Skeletor down there.
Well, that's interesting. Looks like Skeletor did, though, get a pretty decent run out of the Le Mans chicane as he is creeping up to Jay as we speak. See if Jay will go on the defensive, or is he going to let Skeletor overtake him as they go side by side onto the front stretch? Oh, it'd be a photo finish if the race ended right now. It looks like Skeletor is backing out. No, they're going too wide into turn one. That was bold.
That was risky.
For everybody.
That was very risky.
Yeah, it definitely was risky. As we jump on up to PhD Speedy Lee, who just did a little bit of lawn trimming and is still staying very close behind Purple Nurple. Now, one thing that has caught my attention is when they go into the International Horseshoe, they're taking a very tight line, which actually you don't really even see that in daily races because everybody tries to have a wide exit to get more straight line speed. But I think that's really benefiting all of our drivers right now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Toon, I was just going to add, with it being the last race before the finals, I can imagine some of these guys are running elbow out. They're going to run a little bit more defensively than they maybe would have in other races. So don't be surprised if you see these guys maybe not taking the fastest line, but maybe the smartest line to keep your opponents behind you back there.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Speedy Lee is gaining on Purple Nurple coming into the Le Mans chicane, but the exit's going to be the all-important part. That exit did look a little dicey for Speedy Lee, but I think he was able to get it correct. Nope. Looks like I spoke too soon.
Definitely cut it.
It was just a slight nick of the grass, and it was it. That's a very strict track limit, but luckily it's only a half second. It honestly could be worse as we see Jay take P4 off of Speedy Lee's hands. And now it looks like Jay has Purple Nurple in his sights as they fly into turn one for lap 5 of 18 of night 1 of the semifinals for Division B of the NRL's 3rd season. It's looking like it's going to be an amazing race, and seems like everybody's holding their lines very well as we see Papa's really pulling away at this rate. You might want to be mindful of those tires as we see M. Marino narrowly avoid contact with Skeletor. Good on you, M. Marino, for avoiding any sort of contact. That's a great show of track awareness and sportsmanship. M. Marino is currently a free agent, also known as not signed by PSG yet, and is sitting in P18 for Division B with 35 points. You can find him on YouTube at Marino Racing. It looks like Skeletor got a little bit of a tail wiggle coming out of the west end of the horseshoe. Let's see how costly that was.
Marino's got on the inside.
Oh, and
he's making the pass.
He's able to cleanly take P7 from Skeletor. That was a risky move, but it's good to see that it definitely paid off. So I'm taking a look at the tire and fuel wear for our drivers. Leo, you obviously did your practice with your PhD compatriots. Is the commonality here, is it a tire saving race, or is it more of a fuel saving race for our drivers?
I'm going to throw you for a loop here. It's actually both. You need to preserve them tires as long as possible, and with the fuel rate, as you'll see as the pit stops start coming in here around lap 6 and or 9,
nice.
They will be in the pits for a little while because the fueling rate is very slow. So one, you have to be mindful of the tires, hence why I said maybe the hards would be a good idea at the start and then rejected that idea. So mediums and softs are definitely the way to go. It's just which order do you go in with those. So really it's both of them really, and especially in this car, you give it the gas and you'll see that gas gauge go down just like an old 454.
All right, well, that's very insightful. Thank you, Leo. As we are on lap 6 of 18, we are a third of the way through this race, and it's been quite close. Jay's got a speedy lead behind him by just a second, and he's just over half a second behind Purple Nurple as Speedy Lee ran a little bit wide coming out of the west end of the horseshoe. That's going to be a little costly, but there's still plenty of time to make up for it.
Yeah, Toon, the one thing I'm noticing here is that gap that Papa's got on Lewis. It's been pretty close to 3 seconds, maybe 3.5 seconds. It doesn't seem to be changing a whole lot until right now. I don't know. I've been watching Papa. I didn't see anything go wrong, but I can tell you that his right rear tire is pretty much bald. The other one's getting pretty low, so I wonder if the tire wear on those softs is costing some time. Although as soon as I say that, I look up and he's almost up to God, it's almost 4.5, and Papa is going in the pits, so he's going to take his first tire change here at the end of lap 6.
Yeah, and as you were explaining the gap to Lewis and Papa, Lewis had a less than stellar run out of the Le Mans chicane, which cost him quite a bit of time and allowed Purple Nurple to come in and swoop up P2. And looks like Lewis will be staying out for the moment. That back right tire is almost completely gone. 2 weeks of practice. I'm sure these guys are all very much used to running different methods on the tires as we jump on board with Purple Nurple, who is ever slowly pulling away from Lewis as we speak, coming into the kink. Now, with those back tires going away, I think they're going to have to be a little more mindful of their lines, and it looks like Lewis is trying to find an opportunity to jump past Purple Nurple, and hats off to him. Looks like Lewis is definitely not going to be out anytime soon. As we see Purple Nurple run a little bit wide, and it looks like Lewis is going to take his shot on taking P2. Will it be successful? It is. I'm sorry, P1. Lewis is now taking P1 off of Purple Nurple as they move into Speedway 1 and 2. They're not letting the tires stop them at all. Getting a little bit of too wide action, but starting to file in before they go into the launch chicane. See how they take it, taking it nice and easy, business as usual. Yeah, I'd say that was a pretty textbook run through the chicane. Those medium runners, though, I'm starting to do mental wagers with myself on when they'll be pitting. And speaking of pitting, let's take a look at some of the possible pit strategies for this race. So we have one where it is 5, 6, and 7. For all softs, we have one where it is a stint on the mediums for 11 laps and a stint on the softs for 7. Or one that we might be seeing here is no stopper. Oh my gosh! Oh, Purple Nurple spun out. Can we get a replay of that? That was.
And that is also something I was going to bring up too. Once these tires start going, you have to be very, very cautious with the power that this car has. I mean, as we can see, comes under heavy into braking and just.
Oh! It looked like Purple Nurple tried to send it up the inside into turn 1, but I think may have bit off a little more than he could chew. Looks like Purple Nurple was able to bounce back, though, and is in P4 and back into the hut. As we jump on board with Jay, who is now taken P2 and is about a second in closing behind Lewis. Now, this is definitely going to be interesting as Lewis runs wide and Jay keeps a tight line. This might afford him the opportunity to overtake. But with what we saw with Purple Nurple, it's definitely looking like these drivers should start considering when they might want to go and take their pit stops. Would not be surprised if some of them wind up jumping into the pits probably by the end of this lap.
Well, speaking of that, Toon, we had 2 drivers that have just pit, Marino and Beef Castle. Both of those guys were running mediums, and both of them put another set of mediums on. So looks like some of these guys are sticking with their tire strategy for now.
I was going to say, I may or may not have some insider information on what Jay and Purple are going to do. I suspect they're going to be in around, lap 9, so about right now. If not, on lap 9 itself. Oh, no, Jay's going in right now. They're probably going to run 2 stints of mediums, and that's all they're going to do.
Well, I would not blame them for doing 2 stints of mediums, but good on Jay for getting into the pits. That fuel light was flashing, so better to be safe than sorry as we move on over to M. Marino coming through the Le Mans chicane, taking a nice exit and carrying a boatload of speed to boot. Now, let's see here. Jay is now finally into the pits, and looks like M. Marino is slowly losing the gap between himself and Skeletor, but has a very healthy lead between himself and Jay Smith at the moment. So I think M. Marino is going to be able to at least enjoy a little bit of breathing room for the time being. As we move on up the grid to Purple Nurple, whose fuel light is starting to blink on him. Let's see how he does coming through the onboard of Speedway 1, and it looks like everything is in order. I see he's short shifting. Interesting, trying to conserve all the fuel he can. Very wise strategy, honestly. Purple Nurple seems to have a 11.25 second lead over Papa and a 3-second deficit between himself and Speedy Lead, but I wouldn't be surprised if both of them head into the pits this lap. Were you going to say something, Leo?
Yes, actually, I was. That was also a little bit of insider information that I have, that actually short shifting this thing saves a ton of fuel. Even using the fuel map and stuff like that, it did not help this car at all.
That's good to know. What I see, Papa's only sitting on half a tank of fuel. Was there a strategy for you PhD guys where it was change tires and then do a splash and dash?
I signed an NDA. I cannot disclose that information.
Uh-huh. As we see Papa now take P1 once again, coming into turn 1, giving a nice braking zone, keeping a nice braking line, and getting a nice exit out. Looks like Papa's going to be on a mission to put as much space between himself and the others as he can in this moment where a lot of the field is getting into the pits. Now, Papa started on the softs, correct, Salama?
Papa did, yeah. He started on the soft compounds, and then he took another set of soft compounds on his first day.
All right, and I see Redneck C137's just set a purple sector, so this is going to be really interesting. Redneck, of course, does have the fastest lap so far for the race with a 146.280. So it's looking like Redneck might be gunning for P1 here in the near future. As we
I was
see
going to
him
say, I
come
think
onto
Papa's going to be... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, I think Papa's going to run the 6, 6, and 6 on softs, if I'm not mistaken, is what it's looking like. That does pan out pretty well, but if you could fuel save and keep them tires alive, you will spend less time out in the pits versus being out on track, especially with that high fuel rate where it takes a very long time to fuel the car back up. That might prove to be which one will be the right one. I don't know.
Interesting. As we take a look at Redneck C137's livery, I think maybe trying to grab the eye and affection of our leader of the NRL, McNaughty himself, with a lot of Final Fantasy VII decals there. So,
and also Papa, too. He does like his Final Fantasy.
I did not know that. Seems Final Fantasy is more popular than I thought. Looks like Redneck C137 is 12 seconds ahead of P3 and Skeletor and is starting to gain on Papa. So we jump on over to Jay, who is closing his gap between himself and Skeletor. Seems Jay has jumped onto the soft compound and is ready to get his racing underway. Now, you mentioned the tire saving and fuel saving.
Mm-hmm.
Which to you, Leo, has more of a priority when it comes to a race like this, where you've got the banks that will chew up your tires, but you've also got the straightaways that will chew up your fuel if you're trying to stay within slipstream range of your competitors?
Tune, honestly, I'd probably be worried more about the fuel rate, or the fuel, especially like I mentioned earlier, with the long time that you would be in the pits for. So I would be trying to conserve as much fuel. Tire wear, I would that's like secondary to me. Um, I'd be more concerned with the fuel.
All right. So we see Jay is rapidly gaining on Skeletor now, just getting to almost a quarter of a second and closing. Wow, Jay is on a flyer right now. But coming into Le Mans Chicane's got to be careful not to become a victim of dirty air, and he is not, and keeping a nice line out. See if that exit will be enough to give him enough momentum to carry on with a P3 and maybe even the fastest lap. That 146.280 is not an easy one to, it's not going to be an easy one to beat by any stretch of the imagination. Looks like Jay is staying nice and close in that slipstream range. I'm surprised we haven't seen some bump drafting action yet, and Jay takes the fastest lap for now with a 146.039. Very good time. Coming into turn one, Jay is staying really close to Skeletor, and I thought Skeletor was almost going to be a victim of the invisible wall for a moment. Or no, that
You
was the
thought
actual
that? No,
wall.
I thought Jay was too, because he was right up on that invisible wall from what I saw.
Yeah, I thought it was an urban legend. As we see, Jay is now trying to make it too wide coming through the kink. He's close, but not quite close enough, and backing out for the horseshoe west and bending up the inside. Oh, and Jay has taken P3 from Skeletor for the time being in a fantastic show. Well, it looks like Skeletor's not going to take that line down as Skeletor is starting to gain on Jay as we speak. Jay runs a little bit wide, and it looks like Skeletor was a little too hard on the brakes. That might have costed him, but there's still 6 laps of racing action to go, folks. I see that Skeletor's rear right tire is gone though, and it looks like he's looking a little bit light in the fuel tank. So it's going to be interesting to see how he goes about this next lap and if he winds up pitting or goes on for another one. As Skeletor comes into the Le Mans Chicane, clipping the tires on the right, getting a good run out on the left, avoiding any dirt and any penalties. Fantastic show as Papa has gone into the pits on 4% fuel. Wow, he was really running that thing. As Redneck C137 is close in tow. Yeah, they're both cutting it close. Will this be enough of an opportunity for Jay to take P1 for the time being? Only time will tell. He comes across the line with a 147.382 and flying on down into turn one. Jay has taken first place for the time being and is holding it nice and tight, a little squirrely on acceleration coming out of the apex for turn one. But looks like it was handled quite nicely. And Marino is also starting to gain on him just a teensy bit. Looks like Marino also has Lewis not too far behind him either. So Marino is going to have to be pretty selective about his driving lines and also the acceleration points, lest he wind up oversteering the car, which from what I hear is not that hard to do.
It is not at all.
Would you say this is one of the more squirrelier Group 3 cars?
This and the Vet. As much as I love the Vet, they both act very similar. They are both very squirrely under acceleration coming out of corners.
Huh. So, well, that's kind of weird to see with how PD manages the bop for this. But either way, we can get into the concerns and confusion of balance of performance another time. And Marino is currently judging by my eyes, having Jay slowly peel away from him, but how long will that last? Who knows, as Marino's fuel light has just come on, and I guess that means that's time for him to start considering a pit stop. So like Lewis had a pretty decent run out of the Le Mans Chicane, and jumping on up to Jay, who is currently in P1 by about 5 1/4 seconds, give or take. Jay has gone into the pits, and now it is time for Marino to come in as well, with Lewis appearing to stay out. See how much of a gap Lewis can give himself to the other competitors as he comes into turn one. Ooh, that was a very close line, but I think it worked out a-okay for him as we jump on down to Purple Nurple, who is currently half a second behind Papa and is really driving like a man on a mission, if I'm honest. Coming down
Yeah,
into
he's
the
definitely trying to
horseshoe.
make up the spots that he missed out on.
Looks like Papa went a little wide on the brakes, but was able to get it back in order. And Purple Nurple is trying to hold on as long as possible to that slipstream coming in through the kink. Getting a little squirrely on that curbing, but looks like everything is in order as it seems. Coming into the west horseshoe, getting a little squirrely on that curb again. Those curbs are unsettling that car more than I thought they would. We jump on over to Papa, who is right behind Speedy Lee, who ran just a teensy bit wide, and Papa saw the door and is walking through it and putting his hat on the hat rack.
Yeah, and Papa's got the tire advantage there for sure. Speedy's on the mediums, and you know, if you look at Speedy's tires, they're pretty fresh, but you can tell how much of a difference those soft tires made. Papa made that look like an easy pass.
He sure did. Although I can't help but notice their liveries are also quite similar. Just a quick change in paint as we see the sun is actually starting to come up on Daytona. Papa sets a purple final sector. Will he be able to hold on to that time he's lost coming in through Speedways 3 and 4? Oh, it looks like Speedy Lee has a half-second penalty from the Le Mans game.
And also Purple Nurple too.
So it looks like Papa's going to have plenty of room to breathe and try and make up for the P1 earlier. But it looks like he was not able to hold on to that time gain coming through Speedway 3 and 4 as we move over to Lewis, who is driving like a madman trying to retain P1, and good on him. Coming in through the horseshoe with a good line. Yes, Lemma?
Leo, is that half a tank going to get him for the next 3 laps?
That is questionable at best.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
I don't quite remember in practice what I was running with, but he's gonna have his work cut out for him. I'm pretty sure that fuel tank light's gonna be flashing. And
yeah, the thing I'm noticing with some of these guys that are on the mediums is they're running out of gas before they've run through their tires. You know, so they're coming into the pits with maybe a quarter tank of gas, but then they need tires. Or excuse me, I got that backwards. Coming in with a quarter tank of gas and getting tires.
Regardless, that is insightful to see, Slummo. Thank you for all of your diligent work, and it looks like that gap between Lewis and Papa is starting to slowly but surely shrink over the last 3 laps of this race. So Papa's going to have to be quite methodical about his approach here, cutting quite a bit. That might have been a penalty. I'm not too sure. Well, we will see in just a second. And no, looks like that was clean according to the game, which is kind of weird, kind of inconsistent if you ask me.
Maybe he's got somebody in PHG and PD as well.
Oh, that would not surprise me. As we jump over to Purple Nurple, who is about 3/4 of a second behind Speedy Lee at the moment, but has a 1 1/4-ish second gap between himself and Redneck C137 as the sun has rapidly rose. As they come into turn 1, track temperatures are now going to be increasing, which means that car will have at least a little more grip. So I think we might see some heroics from our drivers coming into these last couple laps. Taking a nice lane through the kink, and it seems Redneck is also going to be turning this into a 3-way battle for the final podium spot, unless something happens to our P1 and P2 sitters over the next 2 laps. Coming in through the west end of the horseshoe, keeping it nice and neat. Speedy Lee is definitely keeping that door closed as much as he can from Purple Nurple, but I think Purple Nurple is going to start pounding on that door like he's got a search warrant. Running a teensy bit wide, those tires squealing, but the traction control and active stability management doing their job to make sure this car stays going straight as an arrow. Into Speedway 1 and 2. Seems Purple Nurple is just in that slipstream range from Speedy Lee. So we might see at least an inkling of some side-by-side coming into Le Mans chicane. Nope. Oh, tries to send it up the inside, but backs out at just the last second, and Speedy Lee has lost control of the car and gone off. Purple Nurple slowing down a little bit, and the Redneck C137 is now taking P3. Let's take a replay of what just happened. So coming into Le Mans chicane, looks like Purple Nurple saw a door open, and there was almost a bit of overlap, but looks like Speedy Lee just ran a little bit wide, but the finer details of all of that will be up to our stewards to decide. So we jump back on board with Papa, who's turned a 5-second gap into a 3-second gap and closing on the penultimate lap of this race. Judging by the fuel tank on Papa, it looks like he might be sending it for these next coming laps, but only time will tell. Leo, as you're cycling through the grid, what's the difference between Lewis's and Papa's fuel tanks right now?
Lewis is sitting at about a quarter of a tank, and Papa is also at the same point. But while y'all were watching the replay, I saw Redneck overtake Purple Nurple. I don't know if, so there might be a battle coming up for that here soon.
As we jump over to Purple Nurple, who is about 3/4 of a second behind Redneck C137, it looks like looks like the two of them really are going to have a battle for P3 over the next lap and a half, I'd say, for this race. Well, it looks like Purple Nurple's tire is starting to fall off a little bit. And speaking of tires, it looks like Papa's been able to hold on to his tires a little bit. As they come up into the Le Mans chicane, Papa is coming in like a speeding bullet. Flying on through, making sure to take just enough of the curb to not warrant a penalty from the game, and is trying to get P1 back in his hands. That gap
Dude,
is
I'll say,
rapidly closing.
Lewis has got to be very careful this next turn on the first turn here, coming up into that long left-hander. If he gets too hard on the brakes, the back end of the car will come out and he'll spin around real quickly. While Papa has got just enough tire to hopefully get on the brakes hard and get around him.
We'll see. It looks like Papa went a little deep and got a little squirrely, but the assists are doing their job and keeping everything as it should be. Coming into the final lap for our Division B semifinals, night one, mind you, for the third season, and it's been an insane race. It started out with a long train of cars. Looks like the grid's panned out a little bit, but everybody's still in this race, and everybody seems to have a battle of their own going on, as Papa's right tire has now decided to clock out for the evening. Hearing that car, actually hearing quite a bit of the tire squeal. That could have been, I think, understeer maybe. I'm not 100% certain.
Whoa.
Looks like Papa might have an opportunity to overtake Lewis, but looks like Lewis is keeping that door closed for the time being. Coming up onto Speedway 1, will Papa be able to get enough slipstream to overtake onto the back stretch? Only time will tell. Yep,
He's going to
Papa
have to
is
send
staying-
it through that Le Mans chicane there if he's going to have
He
any hope
really
of
is.
getting P1.
Yep, looks like Lewis taking the defensive line, and ooh, getting a little squirrely. Coming into the braking zone, almost too wide. Papa was able to save the car and get a good run out, as Lewis is now hopping onto Speedway 3. Doesn't look like either of them got any penalties, and that was a bold move from both of them, and I'm glad to see that there was no incident, as Lewis's fuel light is on. If he pushes too much, he might run out before the start finish. Who knows? And nope, looks like he's got it. And Lewis comes across the line for P1 for the semifinals, with Papa taking P2, and rounding out our podium for the evening is Redneck C137, with Purple Nurple quite close behind him. Rounding out our top 5, it seems, will be Jay, followed by Skeletor coming along the front stretch for the final time this evening, and across the line. Speedily not too far behind him in the grand scheme of it, nor is Marino. Fantastic racing we've seen here this evening, folks, and we're just getting started too. Jumping on down over to Beef Castle, holding a nice pace coming across the line for the last time. Very good to see. Jack PHG SVG 15, fuel light flashing. Let's see if it was just enough to get him across the line without any worries of running out. All right, looks like it was just enough and across the line for Jack. Moving on over to Jay Smith in the Monster Energy livery.
Oh, a
And
little something for the
drifting across
fans.
the line.
There we go. We
Drifting
finally
across the
got
line
somebody to do it.
in typical NRL fashion. Congratulations to Lewis for his victory for Friday's heats of the Division B semifinals. Can't wait to see how everything played out in our drivers' minds. But before we get into that, let's take a look at the classified results for this. So, coming home with the victory this evening will be Lewis with a total race time of 33 minutes, 16 seconds, 0.14. Coming in just half a second behind him in P2 is PHG Papa. Rounding out our podium for the evening will be Redneck C137. Then followed by Purple Nurple 88. Jay rounding out our top 5 with the fastest lap, mind you, a 146.039. So a bonus point goes to Jay for that one. Then we've got a PHG 67 with Skeletor and Speedy Lee. And Marino coming in P8 with actually these I'm looking at these best laps and there's definitely an air of consistency between a lot of the drivers. I'm seeing a lot of 47s, a couple 46s. This was a close race no matter how you looked at it. Moving on down the grid to P9 with Beef Castle, and then Jack PHG SVG rounding out the top 10, with Jay Smith, of course, rounding out the entire grid for Friday's Division B race. This was a really good race. What do you think, Leo?
Oh, it was definitely a great race. Like I said, the fuel and tire strategy that everybody was having was on completely different levels, but I'm pretty sure Slow Mo will get more into that here in a second. Um, really close battling. I mean, I don't know how some of them guys are going too wide in the middle of the infield. I wouldn't have. I would have waited till the back stretch or front stretch to do that. So kudos to them.
I mean, it was a race with a lot of stakes. So, I mean, a lot of people had to really take the gloves off and throw out some of the bold moves and some of the heroics. What do you think, Slomo?
It's funny. Leo kind of mentioned to it. I'm just sitting here staring at the tire strategies, and I really find it interesting that two of our podium finishers were running the soft strategy. So Papa and Redneck both ran softs the whole race, and then Lewis ran mediums the whole race. So he did a two stopper and ran two sets of mediums. So I'm sorry, one stopper, excuse me, and ran two sets of mediums. Really, really exciting race, and it's so cool to watch these guys push these cars to the limit, and on a track full of courteous drivers. Just great racing tonight.
Oh, could not agree more. Now, moving on over to our interviews for Division B, we will start with our P3 recipient in Redneck C137. Redneck, how are you, sir?
Redneck, we got you.
Redneck, you there?
I think he's there.
All right. Redneck, I believe you're muted, sir.
Some of these you can mute yourself like three different ways now. So
Yeah, technology's getting a little crazy, if I'm honest. We'll come back. We'll come back to Redneck in just a few moments. Let's move on over to our P2 recipient for the evening, PHG's own Papa. Papa, how are you doing, sir?
I am doing good, guys. Congratulations, Lewis.
You had an intense race. You stole pole at the last possible moment. So
Yeah, that
I
was
guess
lucky. Yeah.
yeah, the $1 million question here. how much of the 2 weeks we had between the last round and this round was spent just practicing this car and track combination.
Actually, we practiced quite a bit more this week, of course, than a couple weeks ago. But I mean, there was a group of us. We pretty much had our own races all week, every night almost. We had some pretty full lobbies with everybody practicing. It's been a good week, that as far as that stands.
Well, glad to hear it. And I'd also like to throw out that the moment your mic came on, we've already got an outpour of PHG support over here in the McNaughty chat. We've actually got
PhD guys.
we've got a $2 dono from Pyro Debilly.
Pyro.
Apologies for the pronunciation. Yeah, Pyro. So yeah, we've got you've
Thanks,
definitely brought
Pyro.
yes, thank you indeed, Pyro. You've got quite the following. And speaking of following, I should probably kick it on over to another one of your followers and Leo for some interview questions.
Leo.
Well, Papa, what's up? Good race,
Not a
bud.
lot.
Good race.
Thank you. Thank you.
So in practicing, I noticed you were doing a completely different strat than what you did today. What made the change happen is my question.
Well, I practiced that 666 on softs probably really early in the week or late last week. And then really this week, I just spent some time practicing different strats, see if I could beat it. And that the 666 to help with a couple guys in PHG, the Minister of Speed, that we pretty much decided last night that's the strat that was going to be run. So that's what
I
we did.
see. I see. Yeah, I was on the horn with Jay most of last night talking about it, and of course we were in there with y'all, and I was like,
Mhm.
"Wow, that's a completely different strat than I was seeing last night." So I was just curious on it. That's all.
Yep. Nope.
Yeah,
It's just the one we had kind of in the background. Figured that's the one we'd go with.
had to give us
Well,
something to be surprised about as always, Papa. Flomo, do you have any questions for the man himself?
Oh, 100%. Papa, congratulations on another podium finish. Quite the season 3 you're having here. Tell us
Thank
a
you
little
so
bit
much.
about tell us a little bit about what was going through your head on that last lap. Obviously you could see Lewis in front of you. You closed that gap. We noticed you went for you pulled up alongside of him going into the chicane. Do you think maybe a little patience would have changed that outcome and maybe you would have stole first from him trying to get the slip on the last straight?
Probably coming out of the chicane. Probably would have worked better, but I don't know. I wanted to go. I knew he probably wasn't going to back out, and he went defensive by taking the inside line, but I had to try. I just
Well, I
had to
got to
try. That's just who I am.
Yeah, I love the strategy. I mean, make the other guy make a mistake. We're coming down to who's going to the finals and who isn't. So everything's on the line. That was great driving. That was a lot of fun to watch. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, congratulations indeed, Papa. And before we let you go, looks like more of the PHG Army has decided to come and donate to the league. Some names that might ring a bell to you. Duke, J-Dog, and Horn all have,
Nice, guys.
That's
yep,
the way
and
the
Pyro
PhD
looks,
does it.
yep, oh,
PHG.
my apologies.
Thank you,
Pyro
guys.
also donated again. You got some following behind you, sir.
The
I
paparazzi is like
the
nothing else.
paparazzi. Yeah. I mean, it's a family thing, man, and I just happen to be the one that's got the stream. I didn't even. Yeah, it's cool to be a part of, and that's what I am. I'm a part of it. I'm not. It's not mine. I'm just a part of the family we got going. PhD or not, it's a
Right.
good family
It's
group we
definitely
got.
absolutely amazing how life turns out sometimes. But thank you so much for your time, Papa. You go enjoy a very well earned podium, and we can't wait to see what everything looks like tomorrow and going into the finals.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I got to wait a race to find out, but I'm excited about it.
Oh, you got to wait a day. We're not doing the finals
A
till
day.
tomorrow.
That's right. We got to wait till the end of tomorrow's races. Oh. All right.
I'm sorry,
All right,
Papa.
guys.
I don't make the
Yeah.
rules here.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Thanks for that, man.
Have a good night.
Yeah. Have a good night, guys.
All right. Moving on up the order to our victor for the semifinals for Division B, Lewis. Lewis, how are you feeling?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Sure
Yes,
can.
sir.
Perfect. Yeah, it's awesome, man. Terrifying because I kept watching Papa through my rearview mirror, getting closer and closer. Yeah, it was scary. On that last chicane, I tried defending it, but my tires were completely dead. So if there's an issue or something, I won't mind if he tries to argue it with the stewards because I tried to give him room, but I was just panicking, complete panic.
That's fair. So, when you did take P1, what were some of the things going through your mind in terms of conserving your tire and fuel to try and maintain that P1 for as long as possible?
So I heard you guys wondering out loud if I had enough fuel to last for the rest of the race, and I wanted to yell like, "Yeah, I do. I just have to short shift like crazy." Uh, but yeah, I was in the middle of the race, so I couldn't tell you. So uh, I knew I mean I've been doing a lot of practice runs with Papa and his army, and I knew that uh, if I didn't mess up on mediums, I could beat a two-stop, three stints on softs. All I had to do was not mess up. So in the first half of my race, all I was trying to do is stay as close as possible to Papa, and I knew if I kept my second spot right before him, that it was done. As long as I didn't make any mistakes, there was a good shot that I was gonna finish in first place. Yeah.
Oh, glad to hear it. Leo, any questions?
Yeah. Congratulations again.
Thanks.
It was a fantastic race that we all got to see. Um, what made you land on that strategy, if you don't mind me asking? Did you try a bunch of different strategies over the break,
Oh
or
God, man! So I nerded out and I spent non-reasonable amount of hours on a spreadsheet looking at times, and I knew that if you had really consistent laps on mediums, and you average like a 1 minute and 40 seconds or less, you would end up with a 33-minute and 10-second race, which I thought was enough for top three. So that was just a lot of mathematics that went into it, and
better?
anger. Earlier this week, during hold on, so there is
No, you're
somebody to
good.
blame for this. Uh, and earlier this week on one of Papa's streams, I think he races under the La Cabra, who runs on
Ah,
Division A, right? He wrote on Papa's chat like, "This is gonna be another easy win for you, Papa." And I gotta say, man, I was mad. I was salty. So I made it my mission to just beat Papa. Just so if you wanna blame somebody, blame Lacauda. It's 100% his fault.
so that lit the fire under you to like go
Oh
full
yeah,
on, full
I
send, no matter
yeah,
what.
man. I just like I completely understood Michael Jordan. Like every time he took things personally, like I was like, yeah, I get it now. I was angry, man. So to his credit, Lacabra took it back a few seconds later, but it was too late. The damage was done. I was mad.
Well, and that's the beauty of this, right? Um, I mean, you got guys that are super fast, and you get somebody that kind of motivates you to be even faster. So that's the lovely part
Yeah,
about this, and I'm jealous
it
of
was
not
a
on the track with
victory.
y'all, but
Yeah, man, it was fun. I honestly, this is my first time participating in this league, and I didn't expect it to be this fun. So thank you to McNaughty and you guys, the booth boys. It's incredibly fun. Yeah, and this victory was fueled by anger, 100%. So thank you, Dom. Thank you, Lacauda. This is your victory as well.
Oh,
Well,
he's
we'll take a spite victory. Slow-mo,
Yeah, I
you're
mean,
up.
Lewis, I'm a strategy guy. I love it when a plan comes together. That was so much fun to watch. Starting on the mediums. Did you have any second thoughts as you were kind of getting into the race and you saw a lot of those guys in softs, kind of getting in, taking their extra stops? Did you ever, at any point during the race, consider that, like, oh man, maybe I picked the wrong strat?
No, no. I mean, it all depended on me just not making a mistake and not spinning out. And I knew Purple Nurple was really fast, so all I had to do was stay as close to him as possible. I think he spun out, right? I don't think there
Yeah.
was any contact between us. But yeah, as soon as he spun out, I knew I was good. He was probably my biggest threat. I was hoping that Papa would spin out on that because there's one corner on the track where he kept spinning out for like the last 2 weeks. So I was hoping that corner would take him out, but it didn't. So yeah, at the very last lap, I was starting to doubt it as he kept getting closer, but thankfully it worked. Yeah.
Yeah, well done. Excellent executed plan. Congratulations on your first place finish there, and we'll look forward to seeing how the finals lay out for you.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a
Yes,
good night.
congratulations indeed. Thank you so much for your time. You go and celebrate a hard-earned victory, and
Yeah.
we
Thanks.
will see what the future has in store for you after tomorrow's festivities. Have yourself a good night.
Yeah. You guys too. Good night.
Oh, I'm getting word from production. We've got a couple more super chats as well. We've got a $10 super chat from Gadget Guy and a $5 super chat from Island Grown 777. Looks like there's a difference between Islands and everybody else's though. Islands was cheering "Go Canada, go!" That one was out to Lewis. So glad to see the outpouring of support from the community and the drivers to one another. It's really heartwarming. But please stay tuned while we take a brief intermission to get the provisional results tabulated for all of you, and we will be right back with that and the details for our Division A race for the evening. So sit tight. Welcome back, everyone. We had an intense race for Division B, and now it's time to take a look at the provisional standings for Division B, which, bear in mind, will look different after the racing action tomorrow. Going from back to front, we have and in P19, SVG Brigsby in P20, Bells following suit, along with PHG Horn of Plenty, Smokes VR6V, YouTube Average Kurt Games, and DVM 0X rounding out the back half at the moment. Again, this will look different after tomorrow's racing, of course. Moving over to the front, sitting in P1 at the moment, is PHG Papa with a whopping 105 points. Purple Nurple sitting in P2 with 93. Following close behind him is Lewis, rounding out our top three, followed by PHG Speedy Lee, Wicco in P5, followed by Jay, Gelator 698, Redneck C137, Shanzi, and Marino rounding out our top 10. Beef Castle in P11, followed by PHG Fenrir and PHG Dagger, followed by Throwback Cat, Jay Smith, a tie for P6, three-way tie for P16 with Angry Fredbird, Turtle Shell, and Jack PHG SVG 15. And again, that tie will more than likely be broken going into tomorrow's racing. But with all that said and done, it's time we shift our focus to our Division A race for this evening. Jumping over from America to Japan, our drivers are at Kyoto Driving Park. And they'll be driving the Yamagiwa and Miyabi layout in reverse for 20 laps in the Lancer Evo Final Group 3. They will be having a 5-minute qualifier on racing medium, softs, and hards, which are all required. They will also have an 8 times tire wear rate and a 2 times fuel consumption rate and a grid start with false start check. Making our way to the point spread for the Division Ace, I will hand you on over to Slow-Mo. Take it away.
Thank you, Toon. Points again for this week are always going to be awarded to the drivers based on their total race times. Fastest drivers getting the most points there, and this week it's going to be 36, second fastest for 34, and so on down the line. The points again are double of what they were for the round one allocation, so quite a few points on the line for these guys today. The drivers can also get their bonus points, as you see on the right-hand side, and that's by taking one of those podium spots and or putting up a fastest lap in the race. Again, this is an elimination, the last elimination week before our finals. So drivers are fighting for one of those 14 coveted spots in their respective final splits for a chance at that NRL championship.
Thank you once again, Slow-Mo. Now let's take a look at our Division A drivers for this evening. We have GSR La Cabra 809, Detrue Serum, VTX Blindman GT, GSR Shaggy Doo, Dan Turismo, Deputy Fishtail, Talon, Corridor 71, MK, Boogity Boogity, Root, Fernando Button, Tweet, Sanus, and Sparky. Listed under their names are their teams if they are affiliated with one or if they are a free agent, followed by their YouTube and Twitch information should it be applicable to the drivers. And this is definitely going to be a very intense race if Division B was anything to go off of. What do you think, Leo?
Oh, most definitely, man. As you can see, our A drivers are very, very good at getting around very tricky circuits. I mean, this is going to be a handful, especially if we've got a couple of shootouts like we've had the last few times.
I could not agree more. Now let's take a look at qualifying, which has just gotten underway for our Division A semifinal Friday heats. See, some of the drivers are getting out of the pits as we speak. Others are waiting a couple minutes just to make sure they get some clean air behind them as we jump on board with Sparky, whose livery, I believe, was actually featured in the race details screen for this evening. So we can put a livery to a driver here, folks. I'm getting word from production. It's a livery made by the one, the only Sugar Shuffles. Voted one of the best livery designers in the world, mind you. You can find his liveries under the showcase in GT7. Just type in Sugar Shuffles. We see Sparky having a cracking time with these blind corners. My lord, this is going to be an interesting one for all of them. Sparky is a free agent, currently sitting in P31 for Division A, and you can find him on YouTube at GT_Sparky. So, Leo, you said you did some practice laps with the Root the other night. What were you seeing in terms of average lap times for some of the drivers?
You know, that was at the beginning of the week, unfortunately, and I just flat out can't remember. I want to say they were in the 2-somethings. I really don't remember, unfortunately, with the break and stuff like that. I kind of didn't stick in my brain, but I want to say it's around 2:30-ish. I could be completely wrong, but that's where I would say they would be.
That's all right. I just hope that these drivers are also mindful of their tire requirements as they go into this race. As we jump on board to the man you were practicing with, Leo, Root. Root is a free agent, currently sitting in P22 for Division A, and you can find him on YouTube at Root131. So, yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. I also see quite a bit of haze on the track. So, do you think that's going to attribute to a cooler track temperature and a, well, let's be honest here, less undesirable Group 3 car to most of the GT public?
I believe so, Toon. I mean, this track is very hard to see around. As you can see, coming around these corners, they're blind pretty much, so you've got to know where to put the car at exactly. And that haze coming down could either cool down the track or well, in real life, it would put a little bit of moisture down with the haze or fog, you would say. But in the Group 3 Lancer, you don't see it very often. It is a handful of a car. I struggle quite a bit to keep this thing straight.
Well, that's fair. Looks like we've also got quite a bit of downhill sections here on this track too, as we're on board with the True Serum, who is currently on his hot lap for this bout of qualifying. So only time will tell what the track in this conditions in this car will have in store for us up here on the booth and for those in the audience watching all across the globe. It's definitely going to shape up to be a very interesting and honestly an exciting race, as pit strategy is probably going to have more of an impact here than it did for our Division B semifinals just a few moments ago. So, Slow-Mo, as you're cycling through the grid, is everybody just qualifying on the softs, or do we see some people trying the infamous Hako strat? Give us some insight into what you're seeing.
You know, it's funny you say that. Yes, everybody on the field is on softs. I don't see anybody that's done any fuel burn for their laps here. They're running pretty straightforward here, and I think you touched on something very important for this race. Don't forget, these guys have to use all 3 compounds. So, while they may just run 1 lap on hards, I couldn't imagine anybody's going to do that. These guys are going to have to figure out the timing for each tires. Where the race before, they had free run, they could use whatever they wanted, no requirements. So there's a little bit of more strategy that's going to take place in this. Do you start on the hards? Do you start on the mediums? Probably depending upon where you qualify. So as we watch Blind Man GT just coming across the finish line there and putting up a pole. How about that?
Yeah, but there's still quite a bit. Oh, well, never mind. There's still 1 lap worth of qualifying for some of the drivers, so that could change. VTX Blindman is part of Team Vertex Racing and is currently sitting in P5 overall for Division A. And you can find him on YouTube at Logan Nelly 9936. Now, Blindman has been quite the competitor throughout this third season. So I would be remiss if I said that we should expect kind of the same thing from him this evening. But one thing that's having me stumbling over my words is I'm just noticing Blind Man's on his third lap overall for this qualifying session, and his front left tire is already gone. So that's gonna be interesting to see for some of the soft runners for the semifinals. Wouldn't you agree, Slomo?
Yeah, you got it. I mean, the softs aren't going to last terribly long. So, are you going to see some of these guys really push the softs out here? I would imagine that you do, that they're going to try and stretch them a little farther than 3 laps. Maybe lean on those other 3 tires a little bit more. There's a lot of twists and turns and elevation changes, like Leo mentioned. So, these guys are going to have their hands full with this car.
Agreed. Leo, when you were watching some of the practice, I know it's, I guess, in your memory, a time long since past, but was the tire degradation something that caught your eye when you were watching everybody putting in the hard work?
Yes, actually, it did. The few laps that I did run, I noticed like them soft tires don't last long at all, as we see on Blind Man here. I mean, 3 laps in and the soft tires are donezo. That's gonna be, as Slomo was saying, they may have to lean on that soft a little longer than they want to. If it was me personally, I would probably try to run the hards and mediums as much as possible. Probably do a couple of laps on the softs and call that good on those.
Fair enough. Now let's take a look at the classified results for qualifying. Looks like starting pole will be GSR's own La Cabra 809 with a best lap of 2:17.515. That is a staggering time. Coming in P2 for our starting grid will be VTX Blind GT with a personal best lap of 2:18.346. And close behind, rounding out the top three for our starting grid, will be S7R De True Serum, followed by GSR Shaggy Doo with Sparky rounding out our top five, then being followed by Deputy Fishtail, Talon, Matt Koala. Moving on over to P9, we will have Wheat, Lou Sanus, and then Dan Turismo starting in P10 with Corridor 11 in P11, followed by Root, Fernando Button, and Boogity Boogity, who did not set a qualifying time. So it'll be interesting to see what strategy Boogity Boogity has in mind for this upcoming race. Well, all in all, we've got the largest grid for Division A this season. So do you think what I'm sorry. Do you think what we expected from divisions or the splits 1 and 2 for Division A will be completely flipped on their head now that everybody's in the same lobby, Leo?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, in the past there was a lot of room in between drivers, and they could probably get away with doing some more bold moves than others. Now that the grid is fully stacked, there's going to be a lot of cars that are right on top of each other. So we'll see what's going to happen here. I can't wait for it.
I can't wait to see what this race has in store for us either. Slomo, what are your thoughts with the two splits being one this evening?
I'm really excited to see these guys run as one group. This track does not have a ton of passing places. However, you're watching a bunch of talented drivers, and they're going to find places to get them done. So I think it'll be really exciting to see, where some of these guys are pushing for position, and where can they get some of these passes done. I think you're going to see some exciting racing. I know you're going to see some exciting racing. So I guess the question is, who's starting on what compounds for me?
Yeah, that is going to be the all-important question because that will dictate their pace for at least a solid little bit of this race. And it's going to be definitely something everybody's going to want to keep their eyes out for, especially since all three are required. So there's more options for pit strategy than one might think. For all we know, we could see some people double stint, single stint, who knows? But only time will tell as we are about to get this underway. Everybody's lined up, semifinals for Division A, and they are about to come across the line to start this
Lights are
race,
out.
and nobody jumped. Lights are out, and they are away. Looks like Shaggy Doo had quite the start from the stop, and they are just gaggled together right now as VTX Blindman sends it up the inside to take P1 from LaCabra for the time being. They're running too wide at the moment, and it looks like LaCabra is going to be into the slipstream of Blindman to make sure he doesn't get too far away at the moment. Getting a little squirrely in some of these corners. That curve is really upsetting the car, and it looks like Shaggy Doo is too wide with LaCabra as we speak in a very heated battle for P2. I wonder what's going through Blindman's head at this moment as he sees all those cars behind him going too wide, being bunched up together, and knowing that they're pretty much having to follow his pace through some of these turns as we have a mountainous train of cars. Looks like Shaggy Doo's going to try and do some too wide action with LaCabra once again. Both members of Grove Street Racing, so they're quite familiar with how one another drives. So I think this is just going to be two buddies having a good little lap and some intense racing as they try and up to speed with Blindman, who is sitting in P1. I also see that LaCabra is starting on the hard compound. Very good call. Want to stay out and get as much of a gap as possible while others are in the pits. Wow, it is looking like LaCabra is staying really close to Shaggy, and Shaggy's making this too wide and trying to send it up the inside. And it looks like he will be able to successfully do it.
Oh, he got it done.
LaCabra snuck through too.
Yep, looks like Blindman ran just a little bit too wide, so he's going to have to try and stay in their slipstream for as long as possible. Looks like Shaggy Doo had the better run out of the two of them, though, as he is peeling away, coming into the long uphill right-hander. And it looks like there is just a good bundle of cars, too, so nobody's going to be able to breathe a sigh of relief anytime soon.
Yeah, Toon, something interesting. About half the field, half and half. You got quite a few people that started on softs. Shaggy.
Oh, Deputy Fishtail has a 10-second penalty, so I'm sorry to cut you off. Let's take a look at what happened here. So he's coming up the long right-hander, touches a little bit of the grass. Looks like the car just understeered off a little bit and got squirrely and right into the barrier. That is unfortunate to see. I was honestly not expecting a bout of understeer, and I see somebody has already gone into the pits. We jump on over to Talon sitting in P5, about 1 1/4 seconds behind Blindman GT and less than 1/4 of a second ahead of MK. Yeah, there is no room for anybody to breathe here right now.
Yeah, Toon, as I was watching the start of the race, you could see these guys are gunning for it. I mean, that was the most aggressive start I think I've seen so far, with everybody going too wide into this narrow track. And it's a difficult car to do that in, because it will understeer a lot. You wouldn't think it because it's just a Mitsubishi Lancer, but unfortunately this is not the all-wheel drive version. This is a two-wheel drive version, rear front engine rear drive, so it kind of acts kind of like the Subaru. The rear end does like to come out, as I usually say.
That is all very good to note. And Leo, I do want to make special note that, you know, with how much everybody is trying to stay close to one another, especially across both splits, as we see MK flying behind Talon. My lord!
Oh, he even picked up a purple.
He sure did. Let's see if he can hang on to that as he has to fight his way through traffic.
Oh, he's left.
But this is only night one of the semifinals, so who knows what tomorrow has in store. And then when we go into next week with the finals and having drivers from Friday and Saturday in just one race, it's going to be probably even more intense as we see MK send it up the outside and take P5 for the time being. Let's see how Bear's trying to keep that fifth position away from Talon. Looks like Talon is filing in, and they are keeping single file nice and neatly. MK getting a good portion of the grass, and a magnificent livery, by the way. That is stunning. MK is about a second and closing ahead of Blindman, and it looks like Gran Turismo is about to try and take P6 from Talon as we speak. Looks like Talon just had the slightly better run, though. Dan Turismo is a free agent and is currently sitting in P6 overall for Division A across both days. And it looks like he is trying to take his P6 from Talon here in the near future. As it looks like he got a teensy bit squirrely, but straightened it on out. Wow, that train of cars does not stop anytime soon. My lord, seeing sparks flying from the curbs, from the concrete, it's yeah, everybody's giving it everything they have this evening. Would you agree, Slow-Mo?
Yeah, I would, and I find it interesting that Le Cabra went into the pits so quick on lap 2 to get off those hard. He's running his medium compounds. He's the only person that we've seen pit so far.
Yeah, that was a very interesting strategy from Le Cabra. I don't know what he might be planning as we jump on over to Boogity Boogity, who is just over half a second behind Root and has about a 3-second gap between himself and Sweet Lou. So it looks like Boogity Boogity only has to really worry about trying to take P8 from Root at this moment, as they are holding a tight line into the uphill section, which is really good to see. He's keeping a tight line coming in and then going wide out on the apex. That's a masterclass in driving, folks. All of our drivers in this league are honestly world class. They put in so much time and effort. It looks like Root has gone wide, so will Boogity Boogity be able to capitalize on it? Nope, because Root is able to defend the inside, and looks like Boogity Boogity tried for a cutback, but was not in the cards today as they come into the uphill section. If I'm one of the drivers, I honestly would be trying to get some slipstream in that uphill just because of how much of a difference there is in overall speed for your car. We jump on up the grid to Talon, who is so really close to Dan Turismo. Yeah, that's going to be a heated battles only on lap 3 of 20, folks. This is going to be something that we're going to be looking left, right, and center, trying to keep an eye on all the action as the sparks are flying coming across these curves. Talon trying to find the right moment for his apex and bolt on out of the corner. That was a really well done corner, better than what I could have pulled off, as Dan Turismo, though, is just slightly pulling away, but only for the time being. There's 20 laps of non-stop action. We're only a fifth of the way through. As we jump on over to VTX Blindman, who has had P3 taken from him by MK. MK is flying, and I might also want to add, also feeling a little under the weather, so MK's working a little extra hard today, and it's definitely showing. Looks like MK is slightly pulling away, but that could also be due to a difference in tire compounds. I'm not 100% certain, as we see Blindman is currently on the hard, and on lap 4 of all things, his front left is already chipping away. I shudder to think what the tires are looking like for those on the softer tire compounds, and it looks like the headlights are on too.
Yeah, to that point, if you look at somebody like Shaggy or MK or Sparky, who are all on the softs, that front left is gone. The front right is just about gone. The back left is just about gone. So these soft tires are disappearing fast for these guys, and you can tell that Blindman is making up a little bit of that ground because of that lack of grip, I think.
Understandable. And speaking of tires and pitting, let's take a look at the potential strategies for this race. So we see there's a strategy where it is a 5-7-8 between the softs, mediums, and hards respectively, followed by a double stint on 5 laps of the softs, followed by, I believe that is a 4, with 7 laps on the medium and 3 on the hard. There's also another 4-stop strategy where we'll go soft, hard, medium, soft, and an inconceivable one where it's 20 laps and a no-stopper. That would be a sight to behold. I'm looking at MK's tires now, and yeah, his back left's almost completely gone. You were going to say, Slomo?
Yeah, they're required to touch each tire, so I don't think you're going to see anybody run a no-stopper. They've got to use the hards, the mediums, and the softs. So while it is a viable strategy out there, I would imagine that would incur a penalty for somebody as we see MK and the True Serum go into the pits.
It's good to see that nobody's going to try and get bold with their strategies this evening, as the headlights are on. Night has fallen. This track's going to be a lot cooler now, and Shaggy's tires are, well, I'd say well-loved is an understatement. The only tire he has life on right now is his back right, but will he be able to drive in a normal fashion while Sparky is slowly gaining on him due to having possibly a better tire life? It's, well, then again, this is Shaggy we're talking about, so we should be expecting things like this. What do you think, Leo?
I was just about to say Shaggy's doing Shaggy do things. I mean, you saw the very first race that he was not afraid to run on no tires. I've seen him do some things. I'm like, how? But it's Shaggy. There's no other way to explain it, unfortunately. That's why he's also known as the Minister of Speed and is a part of PHG and Grove Street Racing.
That is a very, very solid point. Looking at Sparky, though, his tires are sitting in a lot better shape. He's still got quite a bit of the rights, and it's kind of interesting to see, but Sparky is getting a little squirrely at the moment, but keeping it held just enough. And it seems Sparky also has about a 3-second gap between himself and Blind Man. But then again, that is also a difference in tire compound, so that will change in the very near future. It is almost pitch black out for our drivers, and if I'm looking at this correctly, this track is not very well lit, so these blind corners just got a little bit more dangerous. What do you think, Leo?
Oh, most definitely. The little bit of practice I did with Root, I mean, I had a very hard time. I was smacking every wall that I could find, pretty much, just because of how narrow this track is, and as you can see coming around the corner here, I mean, you can't see where the car's going to track, so these guys must have practiced a lot to figure out where to place the car and just know where it is.
We got a heck of a battle going on back in 7 and 8. Root and Sweet Lou are going into the pit, so that battle has stopped.
1 through 8 is all in the pits at the moment. That is insane to see.
I can barely keep up.
I do not envy you at this moment, Slow-Mo. I'm sorry.
We got
looks like Corridor was able to jump up into P7 on the Racing Hards. Still has a little bit of life on them, so he might be able to squeeze a lap or two out. Corridor is a free agent, currently sitting in P15, and you can find him on YouTube at Corridor7110.
Bruce gotten into the wall, P10. He just, I don't know if he didn't brake well. It looked like he just shot straight into the wall for what I saw. Oh, True Serum is in 12th now after that. I'm sorry.
Let's go and take a look. Yep, 5-second penalty and heavy damage, mind you. Let's see what happened. True Serum coming into the braking zone behind Blind Man. Getting on that curb, looks like got a little unsettled due to that curbing, and unfortunately had a intimate good evening with the barrier. But luckily, there's still 14 laps of racing action to go, so anything can happen, anything will happen, and we can't wait to see the end result of it. See, Blind Man's about a quarter of a second behind Sparky at the moment on the medium compounds. And almost too wide with Sparky coming into the turn, shooting it up the inside, and is able to take P3 for the moment.
Oh, no,
but,
we got it.
Sparky said, no thank you, I'd like my spot back. And, wow, it's looking like there's a bit of a heated discussion between these two in terms of P3. Let's just hope they keep cool heads about it. But then again, this is the NRL we're talking about. They don't have to worry about things like that. It seems Sweet Lou is probably trying to calculate how he's going to get away from all of them. I'm hearing a lot of tire squealing, my lord. What, if the tire wear wasn't enough, whoo! Keeping onto the curves, connecting corner to corner, trying to keep that momentum rolling, doing a magnificent job at it, and coming into the long left-hander. Blind Man sends it up the inside and takes P3 from Sweet Lou for the time being. Looks like Blind Man's carried enough speed, he might be able to take P2 from Sparky as well. Will it be enough, though, before the next corner? Let us see now. Nope, it's looking like Sparky will be able to hold on to P2, at least for the moment. Sweet Lou has gone into the pits.
Yeah, and Sweet
Looks
Lou
like
and
Spark-
Corridor were the only two that hadn't pit. Now Corridor is still out there, being the only one that hasn't been in the pits yet.
Really now? All right. So almost everybody's done with their first pit. This is going to be very interesting to see. As you can see off in the distance, the headlights of all of the drivers, it's just a long line of cars, and it's anybody's race right now. As we jump on over to Le Cabra, who is currently sitting about 4 seconds behind Sparky, and also has Talon breathing down his neck at just over a tenth of a second. This is going to be the pressure's definitely on, especially with Le Cabra and Talon both being exceptionally talented drivers, just like the rest of our A division. But yeah, I'm hoping our drivers are having a blast right now, but aren't getting too comfortable, because this is a semifinal elimination race. Only the top 14 overall will make it to the finals next week, so I just hope they're having a great time and also aware of the stakes in this race. Let's move on over to Shaggy, who is currently running on the mediums and is, what is that, a 6? Oh, yeah, about 5-6 seconds ahead of P2 in VTX Blind Man. This is shaping up to be a nice night drive for Shaggy for the moment. Shaggy is part of Grove Street Racing, and from what Leo said earlier, PHG as well. He's currently sitting in P6 overall, with a grand total of 52 points for Division A across both days. So a victory here might propel him up quite high into the standings for Division A overall. But then again, those standings will have to take them with a grain of salt, because we do have tomorrow's heats as well, which could shake up the standings even more. As we see Shaggy come across the line with a new fastest lap in 2:18.574. My lord, that is a quick lap, but Gran Turismo just took it as well. Oh, and now has the Cabra.
If we
They're
can watch
all
the battle
exchanging.
between 2 and 3, boy, these guys have traded positions a little bit here. Blind Man and Dan are having a really good battle here. I don't know. I don't want to say too much. But maybe this is shaping up to be one of the better battles we've seen.
Well, let's hold our horses there. We've still got 12 laps of racing action to go.
Ooh, what tappity tap?
That might have just been a little squirrely under acceleration. Who knows? As we're going almost too wide now. My lord, Blind Man and Dan are having a heater right now. Now, Slow-Mo, are they on the same tire compound?
So Dan is on the mediums, and Blind Man is also on the mediums. Yes.
Okay, so they're equal. Yeah, they're equally matched, coming too wide. Oh my goodness! Look at this.
Oh, look at Blind Man.
Blind Man is sending it up the inside, riding that curve. My God, that was an insane run out of that corner. Looks like Blind Man bought himself more of a gap than he's had over the last. Oh, and what? No,
and he's
crossing too.
Well, I mean, it is a Lancer, so I mean, they are known to go rally crossing, except that picked him up a half-second penalty, unfortunately.
Looks like that battle for P2 between him and Dan has unfortunately come to an end. If we jump over to Le Cabra, whose front left has checked out for the evening, and it looks like we'll be taking taking P3 off of Blind Man for the moment. But Blind Man, I think, is here for a scrap. He's picking battle for position everywhere he looks. That's just showing he can be down, but most certainly not out.
And this is very notable point. Le Cabra is the only person who's met all 3 tire compounds. Remember, he took that early pit. Obviously, that didn't play too big of a factor in his strategy. He's right back up, staring at a podium position right in front of them with him.
Well, that's understandable. So if Le Cabra's already checked all 3 tire compounds, and we're on lap 8, just about to come into lap 9, what exactly is going through his head right now? Because now all tires are fair game, but those softs are definitely the less than desirable option if I were one of the drivers.
Well, without the tire compound, he just took P3 off Blind Man's hands, as Blind Man got into his... I think Le Cabra made a nice, easy, smooth pass there, and is gone purple here in the section going through here.
You know what? That is all a very good point, Slomo. I don't know. It's just if I were racing, I'd be trying to stretch the tires. What about you, Leo?
Yeah, Tune, that's actually what I was just going to bring up as you were saying it. I mean, you were thinking the same thing. I would personally, if I was Le Cabra right now, if he checked all of his tire compounds off, I would be hopping on them mediums and seeing how long they could go for, and then at the end, hop on them softs and just send it.
All right. I don't know. I think I'd probably, if I were racing in this, I think I'd do hard, medium, and soft. Work my way up, but ride those tires till I legitimately can't anymore. But then again, there's a reason why they're on the grid and I'm up in the booth. They know what they're doing. As we see Talon having a nice potential battle for P5 with Sparky. Ooh, Sparky got a little squirrely, but was able to hold it. And I see headlights coming up between them. Are we going to see a Moses maneuver? Nope, does not look like it. Those headlights were just running a little brighter than I thought. They're coming too wide into the long uphill right-hander. And let's see if Talon is able to get a good run out of here to overtake Sparky. Looks like not this lap, but there's still tons of racing action. We are approaching the halfway mark for this race. My lord, look at that grid too. It is still quite bunched up. That is insane. These guys definitely put their 2 weeks between races to work, because my lord, it's a dead heat. It's anyone's game. It's fantastic to see. What are your thoughts, Leo? Oh, I see somebody has also gone into the pits.
Yeah, that's Boogity Boogity that just went in. Sorry, Leo.
No, you're fine. Yeah, Tune. Like I was saying in the beginning before the race, I mean, this track lends to close racing because of how narrow it is and all the tight corners. Especially you got these guys pulling 218s, 219s. I mean, my original guess at the time was completely off from what I see now. I forget these guys are really quick. I mean, just blistering fast, and the knowledge that they know and how to get around tracks and stuff like that is outstanding. It's just I sometimes I try to guess what these guys can do, and I'm completely wrong, unfortunately.
Right, and just speaking of like the knowledge that they have for the track, we should also throw out that there's also the knowledge that's shared between the drivers in the name of like fair competition, good sportsmanship, and just trying to push one another to do even better. So that's also a considerable factor here. Even drivers that are on the Saturday heats are, from what I've seen, been given advice out to the drivers in Friday and vice versa, just to make sure, and like all the drivers have their fair shake at having the best race they can, which is really great to see, and that's one of the great things about this community. And for those of you watching on YouTube, if you'd like to become a part of this community, just type in !Discord in the chat. You'll see a invite link for the Discord server where you can join in, mingle with your fellow race fans, or even the drivers of the league, and even us up here in the booth. It's a great place to be in. As we see, Talon is about a second behind Sparky at the moment. Looks like Talon's front left is gone, but still has a little bit of the back left to boot. So, and Shaggy Doo has gone into the pits, and it looks like nobody's having to worry about fuel at the moment. I do see that at the halfway part of the race, going into lap 11, we're seeing some 40s and 50s in terms of fuel life. So I think fuel won't really play a factor until closer towards the end of the race. If I had to speculate, what do you think, Leo?
I just got caught up watching what people were doing. Yeah, I don't know if fuel would play a part in that, my friend. I feel like maybe towards the end I would do a splash and dash. is my guess.
All right. I mean, that's fair. It's hard telling. It's anyone's race, as Blind Man has now taken P1 and has a 1 1/4 and gaining, actually, gap between himself and Blind Man on this cloudy evening in Kyoto Driving Park. Track has become quite cool. So, actually, hang on. Slow-mo, Leo, you guys are probably more educated on this. Does track temperature also play a factor in tire wear, or is that a completely separate entity?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead,
No,
Slomo.
Leo, I was hoping you'd answer.
Oh, okay. For tire degradation, I don't know for sure. I know it is more related to tire grip. I don't know. I would assume the hotter the track, the more, because it does have more grip, essentially, as the tires heat up and the track heats up. You gotta think, if the track is 110 degrees, that tire is gonna slowly work up to that. And, tires have a temperature range that they're good for. That's why you see a lot of racetracks when they bring the car, they do have tire warmers on, from what I remember, to bring up that tire to temperature. But they also don't like being too cold or too hot. So I do think that does play a factor in that, but I don't know if that's a factor in GT7 itself.
All very good points, but I would also like to throw out, guys, that while we're speculating here, there's also quite a bit of speculation over in the chat as well. It's quite interesting to see everybody pitch their ideas and theories, as I believe Sparky's gone into pits, as well have Root and Talon. So looks like Sweet Lou's going to be able to take some positions for himself right now. As we see Sweet Lou take Sparky's P5 away from him at the moment, and yeah, looks like he had a good run out, but he does have 4 tires, and Sparky is on the fresher compound, so who knows how long that's gonna be the case, really. Ooh, it looks like there might be a 3-way battle for P5, depending on how
it's starting to heat
goes.
up here.
Oh, and Sparky and Talon have both taken positions from Sweet Lou, but Sweet Lou might be able to have a fight for P6, or maybe not. Well, it was a
sent
short
it around
battle.
him.
It was a blink and you'll miss it battle for P5, but there's still 8 laps of action left, so who knows what's going to happen. As we jump over to Nasquala, who is about a 1.5 seconds behind Sweet Lou at the moment, but it looks like MK on his hard might not have to pit for the remainder of the race, if I had to do even more speculation. So, Sloma, as you have been keeping track of the tires and everything, is there anybody who hasn't checked the criteria for all 3 tires yet?
It's funny you say that. I was just kind of double checking what I've got here. It looks like there are some drivers that still need to take 1 more compound. Corridor, MK, Boogity Boogity, Fernando, Sweet Lou. I think all those guys, Blind Man as well, are probably getting ready to pit here in the next couple laps.
Okay. So,
As y'all were going over that, Dan Turismo just set 2 purple sectors.
Oh, that he has. Wow, Dan is flying at the moment. Looks like he's also coming in like a speeding bullet towards Blind Man. So this is, yeah, we're going to see even more shakeups as the pits keep rolling in. And I think that's a testament to how badly everybody here wants this. So it's going to be interesting as we see Dan Turismo unfortunately does not get a purple lap, but is gaining on Blind Man like there is no tomorrow. It looks like Dan Turismo is also pulling away from Shaggy Doo at the moment. So, yeah, it looks like Dan Turismo is only going to focus on trying to take P1, which he might do over the course of these next couple turns. Never mind, he's going to do it right now. He said forget waiting. But Blind Man, little door-to-door action there into that turn, but it looks like everything is A-okay at the moment. Dan Turismo taking P1 for the time being.
Yeah,
sounded like a bit of oversteer. You were gonna say something, Slema?
Blind man's tires are shot, so I'm actually surprised he held them off as long as he could. I'm also surprised he's on this lap. I thought he was going to go back into the pits, but he's running another one here on these mediums. Oh, and it looks like
It looks
Shaggy's
like
got a half second. Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like LeCobra's tires aren't, well, at least LeCobra's front left isn't doing too hot, but he's staying very close to his GSR teammate at the moment, which is definitely interesting to see. These guys are all really, really quick in their own right. So them being able to have a head-to-head battle with 7 laps to go, I don't know if they'll be able to push that battle for 7 laps, but my God, are they gonna fight with whoever they can to try and get as much position as possible throughout the remainder of this race. And it looks like Shaggy and LaCabra are gaining on Blind Man, so I think Blind Man will be going into the pits probably within the next few, maybe this lap if I had to wager. But who knows? These drivers are all formulating different strategies, and it looks like Shaggy is taking P2 from Blind Man as we speak, with LaCabra in tow. My lord, this is intense. But Shaggy does also have the half-second penalty, which he's about to serve. So, how much of that ground he gained will he be losing with that half-second penalty? Only time will tell. And it looks like Blind Man is going into the pits. Good show on you for that. And LaCabra is staying right behind Shaggy and now taking P2 off his hands. But they still have almost 4 seconds of a gap between themselves and Gran Turismo they have to close. So they're gonna have a bit of work ahead of them, especially if they, want to make sure they don't get bogged down with battling for a position. But as they are teammates, something tells me they will probably be working in a cooperative effort just to catch up with P1 and then letting the battle begin. If I just had to guess, Leo, if you were going against your PHG compatriots, would you be working in tandem to try and catch up, or would you just say, we're gonna fight for position?
It's a hard call to make at that time, Personally, yes, I would work with them until the end. Usually my saying is I'm on nobody's team, but obviously I'm part of the PHG, so I can't say that anymore, unfortunately. But yes, I would probably work with a teammate all the way up until, it's ready to get to the end of the race, and then it's game on after that.
All right, well, that is definitely good to know. And I wonder how. Blind Man on the racing sauce is just sent it up the inside of MK. So I think MK is going to be fighting his way back up the order here very soon because he is flying right now. Getting a little squirrely though, but he is throwing that car around, getting onto the curb to try and get a good run into the right-hander. And yeah.
I wonder if him pushing that car that hard will make the sauce last that long, because as I saw in qualifying, I mean, they only last 3 laps.
Yeah, that is a really good point. Do you think it would have been in Blind Man's favor to jump to a harder compound then, like the mediums?
I personally, yes. I feel like the mediums could probably last them until the end, with saving the tires. As we can see, this race is more of a tire saving race than an actual fuel saver, and compared to the last race where it was both, actually, which you don't see very often.
No, but having both to contend with will make you a better driver at the end of it.
Oh, no doubt.
It looks like Blind Man is trying to catch up to Root, but Root is definitely pulling away at the moment. Getting himself lined up for turn 1 as well. Tires getting a little squealy, maybe a bit of understeer there, but looks like everything is in order. So yeah, 2 weeks of this is what 2 weeks of practice has gotten all of our drivers for the NRL. They have been just killing it out there, if I'm honest. So we see Blind Man's trying to find an opening to get P7 away from Root. Will it be within this next turn? Who knows?
Toon,
looks
speaking of the community thing, I mean, all the past 2 weeks I've been in and out. I'm the spy essentially. Uh, a lot of people have said that when I've entered the lobbies, and I've also had the streams up. And to your point earlier, everybody that's in the streams or just in the lobbies in general are sharing a lot of the information, which I've never seen in a racing community before, and it makes me happy to see.
It definitely makes me happy to see too. It's great to see the level of camaraderie and respect that all of our drivers have for one another, and I don't know. It's something that you don't see very often in terms of GT. So like this is just heartwarming to see. Everybody's professional. They're respectful. They help each other out when needed. They've all pretty much grown together as drivers. Now jumping over to Corridor, who's back left is almost down for the count with 5 laps to go. So I think we'll be seeing Corridor go into the pits once again. Slow-mo, who's had the most pit stops so far as Dan Turismo goes into the pits, actually, as does La Cabra?
La Cabra is actually leading the way. This is his 1, 2, 3. This is La Cabra's 4th pit stop, and he's taking a double stint of soft. So we got Dan, La Cabra, Shaggy, and Sparky. And
my lord. It looks like Talon's got P1 for the time being, and Root has gone into the pits as well, possibly for the last time in this race. Who knows? And Boogity Boogity's gone into the pits as well. Blind Man has jumped all the way back up to P4. My God, he is a man on a mission.
Yeah,
Looks
but
like
to
he's
look
gonna
at,
have-
as I stated before, look at them tires. He's already pretty much burned through them in the past, 2 laps that he's been out, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, he's almost killed the life on them things.
If he pits, I assume he's going to be taking another set of softs for the remainder of the race. Like, with how few laps are left, it would make no sense to jump to a medium or a hard. And looks like Dan's on a fresh set of softs too, which he might be able to make last these remaining 4 laps, as he's just about half a second behind La Cabra. But La Cabra and Dan are both about 4 seconds behind Talon, so they'll have to start formulating ideas on how they're going to play catch-up, unless Talon's got another pit stop in his future. Jumping on over to Shaggy, who is just ahead of MK by about 3/4 of a second, give or take. So, well, actually, MK and Sparky, I just noticed Sparky was back there too, so Shaggy might have a 3-way bout for P5 depending on how this shapes up. But let's jump back up to the battle for P2 at the moment between La Cabra and Dan Turismo. Looks like La Cabra's got about a half-second lead over Dan at the moment. And Blind Man is also going to be throwing his hat into that ring pretty soon, judging at the pace he's going. But I think La Cabra should be able to sit pretty comfortably for the time being. He does also currently have the fastest lap at a 2:17.44, as Talon has gone into the pits probably for the last time this race, as they begin lap 17 of 20. And I'm looking at this mini-map, and the grid's pretty tight. And Dan is definitely starting to gain on La Cabra as well. So this is interesting. And I'm getting word from production we've received a $10 Canadian donation from Lewis. Thank you so much, Lewis. Your support definitely means the world to all of us in the league. And to those of you watching at home, if you'd like to show your support, there's a multitude of ways to do it. You can do it by liking the stream, spreading the word, engaging with the chat, just a little thing, just coming and spending your Friday evening with us, or Saturday morning, depending on what part of the world you're in, means the world of us. And for those of you that feel inclined to make a monetary contribution, You can do so by doing super chat, super stickers, exclamation point donate in the chat, I believe is another one. Or I'm just getting word from production. We actually had 2 donations through McNaughty's secret Swiss bank account, a $5 dono from Bonnie. So and then an anonymous donation for 10. So thank you all so much for that. And we also thank you all so much for your consideration and your support for this league thus far. It means everything to us, and we cannot thank you enough. Now back over to the racing action. Dan Turismo has about a... Oh, I heard a crash.
Oh no!
LaCobra's into
I
the wall.
heard
Can
a
we get a
wall.
replay of what just happened? Oh, my lord, that is going to cost LaCobra dearly.
I think he just came out of that turn a little hot. Yeah, he's got damage too. We haven't seen a lot of heavy damage here in this race, but it's there.
I think that's the 3rd crash we've seen. Let's take a look at what happened here. So LaCobra's flying up the long right-hander, riding that curb as tight as he can, and then just understeers off and says hello to Mariar and the Marshals. And he just skidded across that. Now he's going to have to contend with that damage for probably the next 2 laps. This is going to get very interesting for LaCobra, but if LaCobra's shown us anything this season, this is pretty much nothing for someone like him. LaCobra, of course, does, from what he stated, spend quite a bit of time practicing with our defending Season 2 champion Mullet. And I'm also getting word from production that we have another generous contribution from the PHG Paparazzi. And this time it's the man himself, Papa, with 5 gifted memberships. My lord, Papa. Thank you all so very much. And congratulations to Ragnar Owenson, GLK Sneaky, who seems to always wind up with a gifted membership. My word. Cole Trickle, Shumi, and T. Walker. Actually, yeah, Leo Slomo, have you guys ever noticed Sneaky always winds up with that gifted membership whenever somebody gifts?
He's pretty sneaky about that somehow.
Yeah, he is.
Very,
That
very
is really-
sneaky.
If we could take a look at LaCobra right now, position 3, he is eyeing up Blind Man right now. And, LaCobra's got a tire advantage ever so slightly. LaCobra with a wiggle, and you can see, Blind Man had a little wiggle. LaCobra got some space. He pulled up alongside of him. Looks like he's going to get this done here if he can hold on to it. And don't forget, LaCobra is driving with damage at this point. So look at how well he is maneuvering the vehicle around. This is the turn we saw him lose it on last time. So he looked like he was a little extra cautious through that.
Yeah, it definitely looks like there's a good history between Blind Man and LaCobra. Those two do sure love to have their battles for positions, as LaCobra and Blind Man are both just flying at the moment. See how long LaCobra can hold off Blind Man, though, but I think we'll want to keep following these two for a little bit, and Shaggy Doo's going to start getting himself into the mix as well. Yeah. His front left is gone, but the other tires are good as they start the penultimate lap for Friday's Division A semifinals. So,
Toon, thinking about it, how does LaCobra always find someone to battle as hard with? I mean, we've seen it several times already. I don't know how he ends up doing this, but he does. Oh!
I don't know.
The Shaggy Doo goes flying past.
Oh, that was Blind Man.
It looks like Blind Man may have gone into the wall. Nope.
He's down
just
to P6
narrowly
now.
avoided disaster, and yeah, he is in P6. Let's take a look at what happened. All right. Looks like he is flying through, trying to get a good opening. Outbrakes himself.
Outbreak.
Ooh! Just enough contact to not warrant a penalty, and a little bit of a dodgy rejoin, but everybody did make it through safely, so hats off to Blind Man for being able to just narrowly avoid disaster, as now it looks like we have a GSR 2-3, and they're going to be playing catch-up to Dan Turismo all the way up in P1 by a considerable margin. Slomo, what are Dan Turismo's tires looking like at this moment?
You know, his tires look okay, but what I'd be worried about if I was Dan is the fuel. His left front tire is completely gone, but his fuel is, about an eighth of a tank. So I don't know if that's going to get him around the rest of this and the next lap or not.
I'm not sure either. We're about maybe 2/3 of the way done with this penultimate lap for the drivers
Yeah.
back here. Shaggy's fuel light just came on too. Yeah, I think this is definitely a stage in the race where the fuel is going to become a factor. Leo?
I was just thinking, would it be advisable to even do a splash and dash real quick? I mean, Dan Turismo's got, what, 8 seconds to Shaggy. If he can pull it off, I'd top it off just a little bit just to get comfortable, maybe. But that's a question that only these guys know for sure.
I'm not even sure how long the pit stop is. I know
it's really fast
pit lane.
here.
Oh, it is? It's kind of like Willow Springs back in the previous round?
It is, but Dan drove right by it, so he is not taking gas. Looks like he's putting it all out there and going to take a little bit of a calculated gamble here.
Oh my lord, this is definitely shaping up to be a very unexpected and probably a very eventful final lap for Friday's Division A semifinals. As we've got Shaggy Doo and La Cabra both kind of neck and neck in the grand scheme of it, with Talon starting to close the gap as well. Actually, as I'm looking at a delta, yeah, looks like Talon's really trying to close that gap. Shaggy may have had a less than stellar break there, but looks like he's still got La Cabra in his sights and is still well within slipstream range. Anything can happen, folks. That's what I've been saying all season and the past 3 seasons, and, well, anything has happened. See La Cabra taking a tight line to get a good exit. Shaggy's tires are pretty much down for the count in terms of his front right and his back left. So by the end of this lap, he'll be driving on one good tire, which will definitely be interesting for him, especially with the pack that is steadily formed behind him, honestly. So Leo, you've been watching the same stuff I have.
Mm-hmm.
What's been going through your mind, taking a look at like how some of the people have gone through the tires, their pit strategies, and seeing drivers the likes of Shaggy running with completely dead tires, because Shaggy and Blindman have both with virtually no life on them. Speaking of that, Slomo, could you give me a quick update on Blindman's tire situation's looking like?
Yeah, no problem. Blindman's on softs. Everybody's met their tire requirements, and he doesn't have any tires left. He's got just a bar on the back right tire, and that's about it.
Oh, now it's time to jump on up to the leader of the race in Gran Turismo, as we are approaching the closing seconds of this race, and it looks like he's
out.
Okay, no, he still got fuel. He still got fuel. Oh, I thought he ran out. And Gran Turismo takes victory with GSR La Cabra and Shaggy Doo in P2 and 3 respectively. But Talon is hot on his tail and drifts across the line. And it looks like Talon was not able to secure P3, but my lord, that did not stop him from trying. As we see Boogity Boogity and VTX Blindman come across the line. Now moving on down the order for our finishers, looks like MK will take a very comfortable P8, with DeTruth Serum taking P9. Moving on over, round out the top 10 finishers will be Root, followed by Corridor, just slightly back, and is actually having to fight off Deputy Fishtail and Sweet Lou at the moment. This is, this has been an insane race so far, my goodness. And Corridor comes across the line with Deputy Fishtail and Sweet Lou in tow. Moving on down the order to Fernando Button, who is coming into the closing moments of his lap. Keeping a decent line, running on the hard compound. Definitely has plenty of fuel to boot, too. Hats off on him for being able to conserve all of that fuel and running the hards. That definitely helped minimize the amount of pit stops he had, because Slow-mo, did Fernando only do the 3 pits, or did he pit a 4th time?
Well, 2 pits. Fernando took 2 pits. He just used all 3 compounds and finished on the hards. Yep.
Okay. So we got a 2-stopper. We've seen as many as 4. My goodness, that was a masterclass in racing from all of the drivers. Whew! Congratulations to Dan Turismo, who jumped in astonishing 9 places. Oh,
That's
wow.
crazy.
Anything can happen. I'd say that's anything.
I would have to say the same.
Now, moving on over to the classified results for the Division A semifinal. Coming in P1 is Dan Turismo with a total race time of 47 minutes, 55 seconds. That's pretty quick, especially for a race this length. Coming in P2, not too far behind him, is GSR La Cabra 809 with his teammate GSR Shaggy Doo, rounding out our top 3. Moving on down the grid, we've got Talon in P4, Sparky in P5, followed by Boogity Boogity, VTX Blindman GT, who finished with an unfortunate 1-second penalty due to having a half-second penalty when he crossed the finish line. In P8, we have MK. Oh, also, before we jump to P9, I should also throw out GSR La Cabra actually took the fastest lap for that race with a 2:17.644. That's blindingly quick. Moving on down the order for P9 will be S7R De True Serum. And rounding out our top 10 will be Root, followed by Corridor 71, Deputy Fishtail, Sweet Lou Sanus, and then Fernando Button rounding out our finishers for this evening. Oh my goodness. We'll start with you, Slumbo. What were your thoughts on this race?
I mean, that was so much fun to watch. I was a little bit surprised that we saw La Cabra take as many pit stops as he did, but once you saw how quick that pit lane was, it made a lot of sense. Get those tires and get out. So he actually ran hard, medium, and then 3 sets of softs, which we didn't see anybody else do that many stops.
Yeah, that was definitely that was an insane race. What about you, Leo?
I just couldn't believe how tight the racing was. I mean, this is a hard track to do that on, and going too wide through some of these turns, especially off the start, that was amazing to watch, and especially the blinding start that some of them had. I'm just amazed, and I don't have words to explain it right now.
Nor do I. I'm kind of speechless too. All right, moving on over to the interviews, though. We're going to have to figure out something to say because it's time to speak to our 3rd place finisher for the evening. Grove Street Racing and Papa's House of Games own Shaggy Doo. Shaggy, how you feeling, man?
Y'all got me?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh man, I don't even know how I did that. See, I phoned that in. I totally did. I did not practice enough of that. I literally practiced I did one practice race a week ago, and then I was like, let me try a different strat. And I tried that strat today about an hour before the race, and it was just the soft, medium, hard, soft. And I don't know how that worked to even do that because it was so close between 3rd and 5th or whatever. Like, holy crap! Well, 2nd and 5th.
Yeah, you definitely had quite the train behind you.
Yeah. I was just trying to stay out of the way of everyone. I'm like, I don't have the pace here. I know I don't. And, I watched everybody qualify. I don't even know how did they qualify on that, but that I just watched people save tires on the first, the out lap, and then one shot it, and I got lucky, and then I just gunned it at the start. I don't even know how that worked. And
Yeah,
I knew if I got distance, I was gone for a minute.
Yeah, so during the race, you and La Cabra had quite a good battle going on for some positioning. Were you guys just trying to have a good little friendly race as teammates? Were you guys also trying to work in tandem to close the gap to other positions? What was going through your mind when you saw that you were pretty much having a good bout for most of the race against your own teammate with La Cabra?
I saw him knock into the wall a little bit, and I figured he had damage, and I'm like, congrats on keeping the pace. Even with damage, it looked like. I didn't know if that was like a net issue or whatever. Like you see it happen, but it didn't actually happen, kind of thing. And I guess he had damage, is what people were saying. Yeah, I was just trying to stay in his slip. I knew he had the pace on me, and he probably had the tire advantage. Everybody's got the tire wear advantage on me, but if I could just stay in the slip, I could keep the distance on P4, P5, whoever was behind me. That's the only thing that kept me ahead of Talon, because Talon was catching me. Once my tires went, and they were very gone, he closed in. I don't even know how I made that corner. I knew if I stuck it on the bottom and just kind of rode that last turn, I had a chance, and then just gun it and hope it sticks.
Well, it definitely looked like it stuck and it worked out in your favor. Leo, do you have any questions for Shaggy?
I mean, great race, man. It's becoming a thing where you've been up here a lot, so it's fun to always hear what you got to say and what you do. I guess the question I got is, are you happy to see that your teammates up here with you?
Yeah, I mean, always. The Cobra's been killing it. Why would I not want to see him up there? We got to show that we're here, and we're always going to be vying for a top spot. Like, we're always going to be in the mix somewhere. Whether it's on, the Friday race or the Saturday race, there's somebody that's going to be up there.
Gotcha. Yeah, what a great race between y'all two.
Oh man, I congrats on Dan was gone. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to the Cobra, because like I know he wrecked or something, and because he was all of a sudden he just appeared out of nowhere in front of me, and I'm like, what? Because I thought he for sure had to win. But congrats to Dan and the Cobra and Talon. I don't know, that was close. And
Yeah, it was.
pretty much everybody. Sparky was up there, and I don't know if y'all saw it or if y'all was on me when Blind Man was in front of me, but I don't know if his tires were bad because he tried to take a line, and I did the old switcheroo. I don't know. I broke some ankles with that one. If you go back, and I'm gonna have to go watch that one, because I about lost it when I did that. I'm like, how did that work?
You're just as flabbergasted as we are, Shaggy.
Yeah.
You got any questions?
Yeah, Shaggy, first of all, congratulations on another podium win here. I love the livery, especially being on a Mitsubishi Lancer.
Yeah.
I was gonna mention that.
Curse livery for you,
I
but
gotta love
also
it.
for a good cause. Which
Yeah.
it's that particular cause has been pretty much heavy on my mind, and the community knows that there's a lot going on, so it's been rough, but that's pretty much what got me through this, because I shouldn't even be third. I don't know how I did this. I was thinking like fifth or sixth maybe, and just kept pushing on.
Well, and I know you love the Subarus. Tell us a little bit about the, driving the Lancer. Did you enjoy driving the car? Obviously, it's not the Subaru, but it sure looked like one.
Yeah, early on when GT7 with the bop and everything, literally it was a twin to the WRX, and I always drove the WRX before the BRZ got introduced. So it's very similar. It's still very similar. It seems like every time there's a bop or a update and there's a nerf or a buff or whatever, they're pretty much on par. As far as, I mean, they're useless both right now. They're pretty much useless, but they're staying with each other if there's that.
So you would say,
I don't know.
is it fair to say you felt pretty comfortable in the car? Because I mean, you made it look easy, as you always do, and we were kind of curious how hard you were going to push some of those tires, which I think you stretched them out pretty well there. I think, let's see, what'd you pit on 6, 10, and 15, if I'm not mistaken?
I did 5, 5, 5, 5. I just did 4 stints, 5 each. That way I get the tire, the tires out of the way, and then the last stint was soft, so that way I had something to push to the end. Barely, but I got there. Yeah.
No, wonderful execution. Congratulations on another podium.
Oh, thank y'all, and I'm sure y'all did great. I couldn't hear you; I had to turn it down, But I'm sure y'all were killing it as always, and I'll go back and watch it and see how y'all react to some things and go from there.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah, believe me, your name was dropped in there. Don't worry.
Oh, I'm sure. And also want to point out, McNaughty, keep killing it as always. This product is, amazing. Okay, And don't ever let anybody tell you otherwise, because you are putting out quality, premier, top flight, whatever. That's what it is, and that's what it's going to be. And, I want to be a part of it as long as I can.
Top shelf.
No problem.
Well, thank you for your time, Shaggy. You go celebrate a completely unexpected, from what I can gather, podium finish, and we'll see what you might have ahead of you for next week, depending on how tomorrow's series of events goes. So,
Right.
Yeah. Thanks for your time, buddy.
All right. Appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good one.
Moving on up the order to our P2 finisher, Grove Street Racing's own La Cabra 809. La Cabra, how you feeling, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. Just a little disappointed because of that. Other than that, yeah, good race.
That's fair. So we saw for a good portion, you were either battling with your teammate in Shaggy, or you were having another go with Blind Man like you did at Fisherman's Ranch. So I gotta ask, were you choosing for battles for position, or was this just completely unexpected?
Yeah, I it was very unexpected. I wasn't, because the pit lane is so short. I was not expecting so many people to keep it to 3 stops, and because the drop off on the pace is huge. So I honestly wasn't expecting to make like 80 overtakes, and the plan was to just jump them in the pits every time, kind of hit them with an undercut. But yeah, I did not want to fight none of them. I just wanted to just kind of let the strategy play out and just come out in front. But it did not work that way.
I mean, it was a spectacle to watch regardless. Slow-mo?
Yeah, I mean, I know you touched a little bit on your strategy. Can you talk us through a little bit? I don't think anybody ran such a short stint on the hards as you. You made 4 stops, like you mentioned. The pit lane was really quick there. Other than coming in second, do you feel like you executed your plan exactly the way you wanted?
Yes, I would have, based on the previous runs I did, and I was leading the race towards the end towards the end, and I mean, I just got overzealous, got too greedy, trying to improve the fastest lap and just run into the wall. But yeah, even though the strategy didn't pan out how I expected, I made the overtakes. The pace didn't drop off. Even when I was overtaking vehicles, I was still setting really good laps. So everything was well. I just got too thirsty at the end, and I paid the price.
Yeah, I mean, to
Maybe,
that point, we watched you climb up the field after you took that first set of tires and get yourself in position, to have that opportunity. Talk us through a little bit about when you ended up in the wall.
yeah, I man, like I know, like I'm just trying to get the best time possible, and even though the curves were very risky, like I want to take the risk. I don't want to get a decent time just playing it safe. I just want to go hard 100%. And on that lap, I was gonna set probably a 16, and I don't know what happened, but the car reacted very different. I checked the wind, and the wind was just perfect for me to understeer into the wall. And yeah, just the car wouldn't turn. I even lifted super early. I hit the brakes, and it didn't happen. Like I couldn't keep it from the wall. But yeah.
Well, I know you wanted a first, but congratulations. The podium is certainly something you've become familiar with. So congrats, Leo.
Appreciate that, bro.
Yeah, man. Congratulations on P2. I guess the question I've got is, like, once you did pick up that damage, I know it's kind of a sore subject. How are you able to keep the pace up on that? Because that can make or break a race right there. And it seemed like you were doing pretty good with keeping up with everybody and keeping your teammate off your back there. It's just the only question I've got.
Yeah, I saw the fastest laps as people were setting them, and I was able to set a fastest lap, having to overtake a couple of cars. So I knew even with the damage, even if I lost a second per lap or a second and a half, I was gonna be able to keep the position. So it was just kind of trusting the pace and not panicking.
Gotcha. Yeah. Congratulations on the podium again.
Oh yeah,
Appreciate that, man.
congratulations indeed, and I hope you can at least take the rest of the evening to celebrate a hard-fought podium between you, Shaggy, and the rest. My word. And can't wait to see what's in store for you after tomorrow's series of races. Thank you for your time, La Cabra.
Yeah, thank you for your work. Thank you, guys, and congratulations to Shaggy and Gran Turismo. Well done.
Great race, La Cabra.
All right, moving on over to our victor for the semifinals, Dan Turismo. Dan, how are you feeling, sir?
I'm feeling great. How you guys doing?
Pretty good. That was quite the unexpected gap you had over P2 and P3. So, I guess the first question I got for you is, what was it like once you saw that you were in the lead? Did you go about it with a different strategy? When you saw you were in first, did you kind of focus on preserving tires, or did you just kind of focus on absolutely sending it to keep that gap as large as possible?
It is a little bit of everything. I think on my first stint of softs, I noticed I was in first, but I knew I had to pit again. So I was like, I got to see how I come out of the pits, see where I come out in traffic. And that whole race is just push as hard as the tires will let you. So it's a real like fine line from going over and pushing too hard and losing a ton of time. So it was just trying to keep a gap or trying to catch the guy in front constantly, but don't overdrive it. You know what I mean?
Right. It was definitely fantastic to see. So before I kick it over to Slomo and Leo, how much of the extended break was spent to just solely practicing this?
I did at least one practice race a day for it. Sometimes two or just some time trial laps. So I'd gotten quite a bit of practice on it. It was just trying to anticipate what the race conditions were going to be like with traffic and with other drivers who are on different tire strategies and what kind of strategy is going to work with all that. So it was a lot of back and forth trying to figure out a good strategy and just execution, trying to get familiar with the track and the tire wear and all that stuff. So I put in quite a bit of practice races this week.
Understandable. Slomo, do you got any questions?
Yeah, Dan, congratulations on the victory tonight. It was a lot of fun to watch. As you were kind of coming into those last few laps, I noticed the fuel gauge was pretty low. Did you do anything through those last laps, any short shifting or fuel saving to make sure that you made it without having to? We didn't know if you were going to jump in on the second to last lap or if you were going to bop in, and you made it work. So did you have to do anything additional to get there?
I think I finished the second to last lap, and I was looking at the gauge and it said I had exactly one lap left. I'm like, I better short shift a little bit to try and make sure I make it. But it was the car, I think I drive it pretty consistently as far as like shifting and stuff goes. So it was pretty predictable how many laps you could do on the fuel that you're given. So I thought I was getting a little short. So I did short shift that last lap just to try and make sure I didn't run out of gas before I crossed the finish line.
Yeah, you didn't run out of gas, and you didn't really lose a lot of your gap either. So, very well executed plan, and pleasure to watch. Leo, what do you have for Dan tonight?
Well, of course, congratulations on P1 there. That's no easy task. at this racetrack. Um, I guess my question is, were you surprised on how tight the field was for most of the race? I know you were in the mix of a lot of things, and how aggressive did you have to get versus not being aggressive, I guess.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping I would be on my own kind of strategy and I could just get clean air. But very quickly, it was like you were in traffic the whole time. I kind of had an issue in qualifying. I caught up to the guy in front of me. I wasn't really able to get a solid qualifying lap, so I started 10th. And I was pretty worried about that, but I started on the hards, so I thought I would be the slowest one out there anyway, so I thought that might be good. But yeah, there was a few battles throughout the race uh, that were pretty intense. I had a little battle with VTX Blind Man kind of in the middle of the race, I think. And then I was trying to, after the last pit stop, I was trying to chase down La Cabra. And I was so bummed when I saw him hit the wall. It's like, it's so easy to do at this track. I would have rather have been able to race him than have him get sent back with a penalty like that. But yeah, him and Shaggy did a killer drive tonight. And yeah, that was a pretty intense race. The whole thing was pretty intense.
Yeah,
As
that
I'm
was
sure it was.
definitely. Yeah, that was definitely intense. And congratulations once again for a victory. I have a totally unrelated question for you, real quick, Dan.
Yeah, shoot.
Uh, so last Friday, Tidge was doing community lobbies. Were you in those lobbies as well? Because I raced somebody named Dan Turismo. I wanted to make sure that was you.
Oh no, I don't know if no Tijni?
Yeah,
Is that who
Tidgeny,
you said?
yeah.
No, that was not me.
There's an imposter Dan Turismo walking around here. That's
Oh no.
unfortunate.
There's two of
Oh,
us?
there can be only one. You got to find him.
Are you,
But just rest your head on knowing that the other Dan Turismo would not be able to hold a candle to you in this league. Congratulations, and can't wait to see what's in store for you after tomorrow's set of races.
yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for putting this on. This is a lot of fun tonight. I'm excited to see the races tomorrow and see what's coming for the final.
It's going to be great. Thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure to watch.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Have a good night.
Yep. Congrats, Dan.
All right, everybody. While we get the provisional standings for Division A tabulated for you, we're going to take one final break, and when we come back, we'll be sure to let you all what the standings are at this current moment. Bear in mind they will look different after tomorrow. And I'm also getting word from production. We have received a $25 donation from our very own Speedy Lee. Speedy Lee, thank you
Hey.
so much for your support.
Thank
It
you.
definitely means a lot, and it's just heartwarming to see all the drivers show the extra love and support. As I get word from production, we have also received a $10 donation from Turtle Shell. My goodness, you guys! Thank you
Way
all
to be
so
Turtle.
very much. Yeah, this is
Awesome.
this is an
That's
amazing community to be a
crazy
part
and
of.
awesome.
But anyway, we will be right back, so stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. What an amazing evening we've had so far. And now let's take a look at the provisional standings for Division A. Starting from last to first, with the back half of the field, we've got a two-way tie right now for P19 with GLK, Sneaky, and Sturkey with 37 points apiece. A tie for 21 with Sugar Shuffles and Island Grown 777 with 35 points apiece. A tie for 23 at the moment with Fernando Button and ARUS, both with 29 points apiece. We've got VTX Scott and P25, and then we've got a tie for P26 between Hitty and Sweet Lou. Following down the order in P28, we have Raider, and then we've got a tie for P29 with VTX Jake and Chief Apollo 11 with 17 points apiece. Then moving on down the order, we have Shadow Chef and VTX Chippy. Making our way up to the front half of the grid, taking the lead right now for Division A is GSR La Cabra with a whopping 106 points, followed by Dan Turismo in P2 with a tie for P3 with the True Serum and VTX Blindman GT. Rounding out our top 5 for Division A is GSR Shaggy Doo, followed by Talon, PHG Salamander MN, GSR I'm Mullet, Deputy Fishtail. Rounding out our top 10 is Boogity Boogity, followed by Corridor 71, and then a tie for P12 we have S7R Slipstream and MK, followed by MMR Moose 21, MD Hop, Root, and a tie for P17 between Spawn and Jesser with a whopping 43 points apiece. Now bear in mind, everybody, these standings will look a lot different after tomorrow's series of races, but all in all, this is going to be a tight order for the finals, as only the top 14 overall will be moving up. So anything can happen, and yeah, it's going to be absolutely crazy. Now, for those of you that were hoping to get a look at the finals, unfortunately, you're going to have to wait until tomorrow's broadcast when the semifinals conclude, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. 6 p.m. UK time, and please make any conversions to your relevant time zone between now and then. Oh my lord, this has been, if this is what Friday had for the semifinals, I have no doubts that Saturday or tomorrow's series of races is going to be just as intense. What do you think, Leo?
Oh, no doubt. We've got a couple of good racetracks to get onto from what I've seen and been a part of. I can't wait to watch. Unfortunately, I do have to work tomorrow, so I will not be there, but guarantee I will be watching, and it's going to be super exciting, and I can't wait to see it.
Could not agree more. What about you, Slomo?
Well, I'm going to be tuned in, watching on the big screen. I can't wait to see how this shapes out. Really excited to see what our finals are going to look like. Wow, these guys are incredible drivers, so expect to see some really good driving tomorrow. Track car combos are on fire for tomorrow, so make no mistake, these guys are going to be awesome.
Absolutely. Now, before we wrap up the show, starting with you, Slomo, you had to pick a driver of the day. Who do you think it would be?
Easy pick for me today. My driver of the day is going to be Dan Turismo. Just an incredible run. He gained a ton of positions. He didn't do a last to first. We've seen that once, but again, this is the semifinals going up against, the best drivers on the day that, that your split has to offer. So I'm picking Dan for today. Leo, how about you?
I remember me saying something about that NDA. I'm not allowed. No, I'm just kidding. Man, there's so many I could pick from. You know what? I'm gonna have to throw out Jay from the Division B race. Simply because that he did put quite a bit of time and effort into that, and he did fall back quite a bit and then regained a lot of positions.
That's perfectly fair. I do absolutely agree with Slomo's point on Dan moving up 9 positions and snagging a victory for it too. That is that was absolutely insane. But I'd also be remiss if we left Lewis out of this equation, who was able to fend off Papa and hold on to P1 until the very last second. So I got to give it to Lewis. That was a exceptional show by him.
It's true.
But yeah, with all of that being said, we will see you all tomorrow. I've been Toon. You can find me over on YouTube and primarily Twitch, where I stream a variety of content. You can find Slow-Mo here on YouTube at GT-Slow-Mo, where he does Gran Turismo content. And you can also find Leo over here on YouTube at Leo2443, where he plays primarily GT7 and also sprinkles in a little bit of variety like Half-Life and Portal, amongst other things. And yeah. So until tomorrow, you all be safe. Have yourself a great rest of your evening or day, depending on your geographic location. And we'll see you here, really in the grand scheme of it, in just a few hours for our Saturday heats. Bye-bye for now.